I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're with my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help, I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Gonna learn the consequence of being incompetent. Mental health is confidence, dreams and some modestness. I'm not here to save the day, that's for you to take away. I could play a million mind games, but instead I say something not illogical, something that is topical. Rub it on and watch it go, make yourself unstoppable. Dreams are irresponsible, but they're always possible. If you just believe, you could be so remarkable.
Thoughts in my head, a collage and they spread. I'll be great one day, going off of my meds. No I'm not giving up, no I'm not giving in. I will make it to the top, taking off in the wind. I gotta make it, I'm saving every day to taste it. I'm patient, but my mind, it can hardly take it. I'm chasing a dream that I've had for several ages. A vacant, modern kingdom for the taking.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help, I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit, I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever
All right, guys, I apologize for that. I don't know why my microphone wasn't working, but it wasn't. So, finally saw it's okay. I'm going to repeat everything. Uh, I'm gonna I'm gonna repeat everything I was just saying. So, uh, you know, anyways, you guys should be hearing me now. Can you hear me now? I hope. Sound is showing on my end now. It was showing off. Yeah, okay, good. All right, thank you, sir. Sorry, I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I want to make sure before I began that you guys can hear me. Anyways, I apologize for the sound issues. So, anyways, let's talk. Let's get caught up now. So, what I was saying was the last time we talked, Ty was in chat. We were chatting, and Ty was going to be turning himself in. The He was planning to turn himself in. He was going to fly down to Key West and turn himself in, and he was waiting to file some motions and get with the judge. Essentially, what occurred, and again, we're going to, the chain of events. Ty, unfortunately, misunderstood how this was supposed to work. He was supposed to get with his bondsman, so the bondsman could escort him back and ensure that what happened didn't happen. He, through a series of unfortunate events, thought the bondsman was a previous bondsman that was reaching out. He contacted the judge and told the judge's office, I'm coming. I'm going to be getting on a plane. Obviously, the judge here, who isn't trying to do Ty any favors, didn't do anything to prevent what was going to occur here in this when he goes through the airport and they check him. He was also supposed to stay on pretrial services. In other words, the bondsman's supposed to coordinate with pretrial services because he's on a monitor. So when he left the house, immediately comes up, and I believe probably it alerted them, and a fugitive warrant got issued, and he eventually gets picked up at the airport because they're aware he's outside of where he's supposed to be, which doesn't take a whole lot of a long time, and the fact that there was already an arrest warrant issued. And as a result, they came and picked him up at the gate, and now he's in jail, and now he's going to have to be transported however they decide. He could be transported by bus, but I think someone's going to come down and probably pick him up. But the bottom line is he's going to be transported by somebody from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, which is a little concerning because I kind of think that's what they wanted all along, because as they're transporting him, they're going to be able to say, hey, we were with Ty Tucker. We were able to hear what he said, and they will be able to recount any type of incriminating things. And that to me is the biggest concern, is they're going to be able to say whatever conversation they want to say happened. Happened. And with these guys, I would not put it past them to say, hey, Ty said something incriminating. Ty said this. Ty said that. The other thing that's going to come into effect is because he left pretrial detention, it's going to make it all but impossible for him to ever get a chance to get back on bond again, because he didn't follow the procedures. And I think that's what the judge is trying to get at here with him, is he's late for court. He's been late for the last 2 Zoom hearings. He's not following his procedures. And he's, just constantly late and constantly pushing things. But I don't think bond should have been revoked. I think they were looking for a reason to revoke bond. So I think if you're Ty in this instance, you got to live perfect. You've got to live perfect. You can't let them get this opportunity on you, because I believe, as I laid out in the last live, this judge is not a friend of Ty's. This judge will not be dismissing this case. There is no chance that he will dismiss the case, period. I don't believe it at all, because as I laid out, he was appointed by Unfortunately, he was. Yes, he discussed that, and the judge at the beginning of all the Zoom hearings would say Ty kept saying that he would get the wrong. Had the wrong court. He had the wrong link. And the judge, the last Zoom hearing, was like, Mr. Tucker, I've had the same Zoom link for like the last 3 years. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know why you're having this issue, but the next time you need to be here early. And then he had warned him about, he'd equally warned him about the fact that he had let his ankle monitor, the battery died, even though he's got problems with it. But he said, listen, you are still on monitoring. You are still responsible to make sure these things happen. So, the thing was, the judge was telegraphing that he was going to do this. He had even told him at the end of one of the hearings, there's a warrant on my desk. The ink is dry, but I decided not to follow it in. I just decided to warn you that any more problems, any more missed appointments, anything at all, I'm revoking you. And obviously, that's what he did. Now, Ty was under the impression that this judge was going to be a friendly guy, a fair guy, that he was coming to him with the potential for to conflict him out, because, well, that just shows what an honest guy is. That wasn't my read of him. This guy was telling him, listen, I'm here to make sure you do things correctly. I'm here to make sure things are done procedurally. And I'm here to ensure that you waive everything you're supposed to waive, so that when appeal comes down, you can't say, I didn't know this, I didn't do this, I got railroaded. And on top of that, because he's a new judge, because he's the newest judge, the guys down there feel like, hey, no one's going to say this is a Bubba guy. That's exactly right, Flash Fan 85. No one's going to say this new judge is Bubba. He's not part of the Bubba system. He's brand new. He just got in. So the whole idea, because remember, Mansfield even asked him that. I mean, they're flagrant about it. He said, you think Bubba's setting you up? Well, they are. You think you're a victim of the Bubba system? Yeah. Well, they brought this guy in and said, well, how can you say that a judge who wasn't even a judge, but he was part of the public defender's office, he was defending the guys. All of this was meant to highlight, he's down there in the public defender's office. He's part of defending the people around Ty. How are you going to sit here and say that this guy is part of a conspiracy to put Ty Tucker in prison? And that's why I was worried about him. And then we find out, I don't know how I missed the article, but then we find out that, my God, this guy is as in deep as you could be. He was recommended by Judge Jones. Judge Jones spoke highly of him and said this guy is in his opinion, is the epitome of what you want as a potential judge. Judge Jones recommended him to Ron DeSantis. And on top of that, this guy says Judge Jones to him represents exactly what a judge should be, and he represents the epitome of serving justice. The same Judge Jones who is and had been leading the cover-up in this case, who had been sealing all the documents, who, again, Ty Tucker was so upset with, he decided to go pro se in the first place, who gagged Ty Tucker's wife. This is the same Judge Jones. That's a concern. Obviously, this guy is not a friendly, not a friendly at all. He's not a friendly individual. He's not trying to be here to help. He is here to lead Ty Tucker to a prison cell for the rest of his life and finish this cover up. That's what this judge is doing. That's what he's here for. And I think that Flash Fan, I believe he will. Yes, I believe that's coming. I don't have anything confirmed, but I believe that's coming. Ty and I were talking about that on that broadcast, the last broadcast we had. I think he knows he needs help. There's no way in the world Ty Tucker will be able to put the defense on that he wanted to put on from a jail cell with the obstruction, with the ways that they can obstruct his defense, the way they can. Well, Faded, he's in custody. We'll talk about that here. So the reason why he's in custody right now is because on April 10th, he had a alcohol test. He doesn't get drug tested. He gets tested for alcohol to ensure he's not drinking. Why that was put on in this case, I have no idea. This case has nothing to do with alcohol, but he had to go get a alcohol test. He showed up at the alcohol test late because basically the registration at these places only lasts for so long. He had to wait in line, and when he got up to take the test, his registration had expired for the day. So he calls pretrial detention, says, I'm here. I just waited in line. They're not letting me take the test. I need to take the test. Of course, pretrial detention guy says, well, you were late again, Ty. And he says, I know, but I'm here. Let me take the test. So anyways, pretrial detention guy works with the center, and he says, all right, come back tomorrow, but be there early, okay? Be there early. Don't screw around. Get the test done tomorrow, and everything should be okay. So he leaves, and then he comes back the next day. He's late again. Okay, so again, take that as you may. He's late again, but he gets to take the test. He takes the test. He passes the test. The judge is notified of this, that he missed the test on the 10th. So unfortunately, if you're going to have a judge who wants to hold you accountable, who wants an excuse to revoke your bond, that's technically, that's technically, that's technically, I guess, in violation of the terms and conditions. He missed the test, but he's passed the test. I mean, this is the type of situation where I understand, like, I don't know. I feel like there's other ways that this could have been handled, but I think this is what they wanted. This was the message. This is that they want to gag him, and essentially he gets the bond revoked, or he leaves and doesn't realize there's a problem, doesn't know, really anything's happening until he gets notified or called by the other day by his pretrial services guy and says, yeah, the judge has revoked your bond. Well, Jeff, it's simple. It's real simple. I can be in his, because it isn't about telling time. It's about the facts of his case, Jeff. And I've looked at his case, and he's innocent. Okay, whether you like Ty Tucker or not, whether you think, whether you think he's irresponsible, you think he's arrogant. A lot of people didn't like him at trial. When they had him, when they were watching him, at his trial. But the bottom line is, this is a situation where he is a truly innocent guy. He is more innocent than Nikolai Mew. Okay, he's being set up, and I don't know if you've looked into much of what I've put out on this case, but Ty, if you go to his website, freetytucker.com, it's not even a website, it's a YouTube page. He's got a voluminous amount of materials on that page. And it's clear that he is an innocent man. He's not the most responsible guy, but listen, who is, right? And I'm not saying that he's right in everything he's done. I'm not saying that, obviously he handles things not in the way I would like them to be handled, and not in the way someone should be handling when you're facing a capital charge. But it doesn't change the fact that the state of Florida does not have the evidence in this case. He is a wrongfully accused person. Half Irish. Let's see. What did you say here? He should have focused in the lack of evidence instead of trying to. Well, that's part of the problem with Ty, is he is so involved in this thing, and this is why you don't represent yourself. You're failing to really catch. You fail to make the right arguments. That's why they say, a lawyer who represents himself as a fool for a client and a fool for an attorney, because it gives you kind of tunnel vision in the sense that you're on how you're going to conduct your case, because we all know, obviously, the burden is on the state. And in this case, I truly believe 110%, if Ty Tucker would have had attorneys in that courtroom in January, he would have been walking out of that courtroom not guilty, because there is so much that didn't get to come in that case. And we're not even talking about police incompetence. We're talking about the simple fact that there's this. You've got a detective who testified in that trial, and she's been demoted because of her incompetence in this case, her mishandling of evidence, the destruction of videotapes, key videotapes. On top of that, so you've got her, who's the one that signs the arrest warrant. She's the one that handled all the investigating. Then on top of that, you've got the only witness that links him to the case, which is John Travis Johnson, whom, if you could have properly impeached him, should have been absolutely destroyed. And Ty did a halfway decent job, but the problem was it was a little bit distracting for the jurors as they're trying to get through his bumbling around with the videos and bumbling around with how to do things and pissing the judge off and all in all distracting the jury from what they should be focused on, which is this guy isn't telling the truth. So when they get to and then on top of that, he mishandles, the DNA expert ends up getting called, and they act like inconclusive somehow should be used as evidence of guilt, when inconclusive clearly is the definition of reasonable doubt. If something is inconclusive, it breaks for the defense. That was never addressed, because when they go to closing arguments, Mansfield makes a absolutely ridiculous argument that Ty Tucker had no way to know that should have had no way to know that blood on the knife was the victim's, even though he was told that hours before by the captain in an interrogation. But unfortunately, that was allowed to slide in along with pictures that should have never come in, because he testified. And when he testifies, although he did a great job testifying, because he testified, one of the key pieces of evidence, it wasn't even evidence, but one of the key things that the jury said was swaying people to the guilty side was because the state was able to infer that there was a trip based on pictures on Paula Belmont's Facebook page, that there was a trip to California. There was no evidence presented that Lauren Janae or Ty Tucker or anyone had anything to do with that trip to Florida. She was going out to see her family. But the inference was she goes on this trip to Florida and then comes back and gives her proffered testimony, now saying Ty Tucker wasn't at the scene. So anyways, the point is, they make all these arguments, and Ty gets upset and goes and spends his closing argument addressing those. Well, here's the thing, though. That's why, Jeff, I think that what he was trying to accomplish in the first case, or when he first tried the case, was attention to the case. And he wants attention on this because, listen, there are other people down there that have been a victim of these people. You got to remember, there's a prosecutor who was suspended twice for actions and activities related to this case, specifically for trying to, what she ended up being suspended for was trying to stop Ty from marrying his now wife, Lauren Janae, but she was also suspended in another case that involved one of Ty's attorneys, for lying to the court in regards to the use of a confidential or of a jailhouse snitch. Specifically, that was done here, where she actually did exactly that in this case. And that was the Raheem Jackson situation, which, again, he's nowhere in this case now at this point, because in that situation, he or Colleen Dunn conspired with Detective Pitcher and Penny Phelps to have a snitch, a known jailhouse snitch who was on the payroll of the Monroe County Sheriff's Department, moved into the same wing of the Monroe County Detention Center, and then claimed that Ty confessed to him. Now, this is what's even crazier. Claims he confessed to him, but says that he was put up to the murder by some woman named Lauren. I mean, that's how crazy, that's how horrifying this story was, because this guy didn't even know what the hell the facts of the case were. Lauren, of course, was nowhere near this case prior to Ty getting arrested. Anyways, so they got caught doing that. That's why Ty got bond originally, because, all of that stuff, they were going to have a hearing where they were going to put all of that stuff on the record, and that would have sealed Colleen Dunn's fate and probably taken her law license away forever, because she'd already done this in another case. So they agreed to give him bond to avoid that hearing. When they avoided that hearing, she got to just simply get suspended again for another year for her actions to try to prevent the wedding between Ty and Lauren Janae. Now, though, that's come back to bite probably Ty in the ass in a way, because guess what? She finishes her suspension, and Dennis Ward just hired her back into the district attorney's office. So she's back. Maybe she'll come back on the case. I mean, that would be the most egregious thing, but she's going to be there in that office helping prepare it, helping to do anything she can to get Ty Tucker convicted. And now they're going to bring him down in cuffs and store him at the detention center. And now this judge is trying very hard to develop at least the public reason why he won't be able to release Ty again on bond. He has a $3.1 million bond, which is akin to no bond, because nobody has $3.1 million to post. Well, I listen, Flash fan, if he would have had attorneys in the first trial, I believe it would have been a not guilty. I believe it would have been I think you're right. There wouldn't be a need for another trial. But hey, Cam Miller, how you doing, sir? But my thing is, when it comes to Ty, I understand there are people that are frustrated with him. They're frustrated by how he acts. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, he's an innocent guy. And that's what we have to focus on. That's where the focus has to be. And again, perhaps maybe, you hate to say something like this, but maybe the best place for him right now is to have to go back into detention if it gets him to agree to hire an attorney, because I don't think the outcome would have been any different. Yep. That's exactly right, Jeff. You're 100% right. I believe in that. I believe that. So now do be aware of something else, guys. He has been since offered an Alford plea and the ability to take a no contest plea. Well, Flash fan, that's what I'm wondering. Because it was such a disaster. See, the reason why I'm wondering that is because every hearing we have, since the mistrial, big boy Mansfield has been basically attempting to really paint the picture that the coverage of this trial created a threat to the families of these district attorneys and the state attorney's office, and that they're really worried about their safety. So I could see, yes, a motion coming to say, hey, we're going to try to shut this thing down. And that would be scary as hell. But it could have, but the only reason why I would see that not happening is because Florida, believe it or not, is one of the states that really holds it. It's very important in Florida for there to be cameras and the ability to see things, and really gag orders are not common in Florida for that reason, because of the sunshine laws, where the courts are supposed to be transparent. You're supposed to be able to see what's going on. So for that reason, I think Judge Morgan may be a little trepidatious, because I think that would really feed into the idea that Ty Tucker is being railroaded here. So I think that I think that would really make people step back. I think that would really get people like Court TV fired up, and might have them come into the case and really start digging into this when they say, well, why are we being kept out? Why aren't we being allowed to see justice as it unfolds in the courtroom? So, yeah. How you doing, Gabby? Nice to see you. And I agree, Sarah, absolutely, 110%. Justice absolutely should be made public. I think it should be something that should be seen, because, listen, there's really nothing more, nothing scarier than somebody who finds themselves entwined in the justice process, because it involves you losing your liberties, losing your rights, losing your freedom, and losing your ability to live. Because and that's the part that I think is, sometimes gets missed, especially when right after this trial and Ty was making appearances and coming out and talking. And it was like I think a lot of times it's like we're on YouTube, we're talking about these things. These people normally are in jail. They're not available to talk or to be right here with us. And here he is with us, but he's facing life. He's facing the rest of his life in prison. And, we've got it. How you doing, Christine? Welcome. And that can't be forgotten because he truly is. I mean, it's a fight now for, his life. He's going to be in a cell, and again, I understand where Jeff's point's coming. Well, don't be stupid. Don't do dumb things. You're in a fight for your life. Yes, I agree with you. And I agree he's not the most responsible guy all the time. But that doesn't change the facts of his case. That does not change the fact that everybody should be upset about Ty Tucker's case. Not because of Ty Tucker, whether you like him or you hate him, but they should be upset about his case because it could happen to any of us. Any of us. Understand that. What's happening to him is he's being prosecuted with no evidence. This is a guy. This is not a guy. Like a lot of people, I think, oh, well, Ty was in the wrong place. Ty Tucker was staying at and again, a lot of you might not understand the origination of this case. Ty Tucker was staying at basically a converted apartment. Okay. Friends of his had to leave. Now, he was around the homeless people and the drug culture down there. Okay. He was, yes, but he was down there helping a friend. He went into the warehouse where he was staying at because a friend of his had to leave because they had gotten into an altercation with someone else in there who filed a restraining order. So this gentleman had to leave. He didn't have time to move his stuff out. So he said, Ty, would you go stay down there in my room that I was renting until we can get my stuff out? And Ty said, yeah, for the next week I'm off. So I'll go stay there. Sure. I'll stay down there at stay down. It's better than staying at Cots. It's better than, and I'll stay down there at this warehouse. And that's what he did. And then he went and paid a phone bill with Rory Wilson. He paid a phone bill. And for no other reason than him paying that phone bill that got him involved in this case, because they were looking for a white guy with a black guy named Detroit and a confidential, well, it wasn't even a confidential informant. It was just somebody who Matt Pitcher talks to. I believe it was Pitcher that got the information, or maybe it was another officer who told Pitcher, but someone who spoke to the police down there said, listen, there was a white guy with Detroit. And sure enough, what happens? They go down there and they go, oh, holy cow. There's the white guy. And he paid a phone bill. Well, there's our money. There it is. Well, no, but Jeff, but the point is that remember, he did hire a lawyer. He had a lawyer in this case all the way up until September of last year. But the point is all of a sudden he's there paying a phone bill on a security camera, and this police officer says, oh, that must be our guy, because they go look at his Facebook page and they see that he was at a thing called Fantasy Fest. And it goes from there. And here's the thing. If you don't believe me, go to his website, go to the interrogation videos, and you can listen to Penny Phelps, Detective Pitcher, Detective Danielle Malone tell you themselves. You can hear exactly how all this develops. You can hear them talk about the Facebook photo. You can hear them talk about the fact that, hey, Ty is our weak link. We're going to bring him in. We're going to break him down, and we're going to get him to confess. And they thought that was their guy. They made a mistake. So they made the decision, okay, we're going to move in. And then they're watching, and they see Rory Wilson, and they see that Rory and his wife, or I guess I don't think she was his wife. I think she may have been his fiance. They see them putting clothes in a bag. They see this bag at the thing. They want to go in and bust it, get a hold of that bag, which ends up having bloody clothes in it. Clothes that don't even fit Ty Tucker, by the way. They're not even his size. But anyways, it's none to nonetheless, he has they see all of that going on. And then they decide, okay, we're going to make our move. So then that night they go busting in and they arrest Ty Tucker and they take Rory Wilson into custody. And this is where things go off the rails. Because at this point, Captain Phelps, who has recently been trained under the Reed technique, she considers herself an expert. She steps in and she does what she normally does. She decides to try to get Ty or Rory to turn on each other. And she goes in and determines that, guess what? It looks like Ty isn't going to be willing to turn on him. So she starts working on the girlfriend of Rory and gets her to implicate Ty. And then she moves on and tries to get Rory, who is, if you watch his interrogation video, Rory's like, what the hell are you talking about? I wasn't with Ty. I mean, he looks genuinely surprised. He does not look like, he's like, I wasn't with Ty. Like, he's in shock that Ty's even being brought up in this. He's like, Ty, what are you talking about? Eventually, 3 minutes of tape is missing. And right before it, he says, so you're telling me if I say it's Ty Tucker, I can go home? Tape cuts off. At his trial, he discusses those 3 minutes. And in those 3 minutes, Penny Phelps says, if you don't tell me what I want to hear, here's the decision. It's you and your pregnant wife or fiance or Ty. Okay? Because here's the deal. I'm going to arrest all of you. I'm going to charge her. I'm going to charge you. I'm going to charge her with being an accessory after the fact. I'm going to charge you with the crime, and I'm going to charge Ty. And Ty's going to be the one. Ty's already implicating it. He's saying it's you guys. He's saying, which is a lie. So you know what happens? The tape turns back on, and then he goes and attempts to implicate Ty and tells a totally fabricated story, which if you listen to it, you know it's fabricated, about a Joe and a Mike and a Donnie and a so-and-so that came in, and Ty led this group in to go do this. Here's the problem. They didn't anticipate that all of a sudden, guess what? They were going to get all these videos. They get a video from Tom Thumb. They get a video from Keys Electric. And what does it show? What does it show? Oh, it shows that there's a truck involved. It shows that a truck drives up, parks, and two guys get out of the truck. It shows that John Travis Johnson is the driver of that truck because they see him go into CVS. Where's that video? We didn't see that at the trial. 30 minutes before, John Travis Johnson is inside CVS. His truck is pulled out front. Doesn't appear there's anyone. It appears there's only one other person in that truck. But guess what? All those videos, the only videos that survive, well, we'll get into that in a minute. So they find that. Now they know they got a problem. But what does Penny Phelps say? She says, oh, that's not a problem. That's an opportunity. Because now what we can do is we can implicate all three of them, and Ty Tucker will be our weak point because he's innocent. And now, hey, we can cut a deal with the innocent guy. We're locking him up for a little bit. What's it matter? Whether he's at COTS or he's here, he's a homeless guy, he's a drug addict. It doesn't really matter. To them, they don't see this as anything more than that way they're going to work it like they've done multiple other times. So that's what they turn, and she goes in and she feeds Travis Johnson his story. She decides to get Travis to implicate Ty or whatever, or to see what she can do with Travis, and Travis takes the bait. She feeds him the story. Travis implicates Ty. Now she has either Travis, who can implicate Ty and Rory, or now she can go back, pick up Ty, okay, and see if she can work him. Now, here's the interesting thing. Remember, what was Ty Tucker originally charged with? He was not originally charged with the death, okay? This tells you what their strategy was. See, Ty was originally charged with allegedly threatening Rory Wilson's fiance because they go back to her the next day and she talks to her and says, hey, give me something to pick Ty up on. So they go and pick him up on that because what their plan was, in my opinion, was at that time was like, Ty, here's the deal. You either talk with us, you either agree to help us. Now we got you, and we can even make this even worse for you and charge you with other things. Or you play ball with us and become a witness against Travis and Rory and we can close this case out and we'll give you the sweetheart deal. But guess what? Ty tells him, fly kite, I ain't talking anymore. I'm done and I want a lawyer. And he lawyers up. So he lawyers up, and then eventually Lauren Janae becomes aware of his situation, and her having been a friend of Ty's from the past connects with Ty, and eventually she decides to bring in real lawyers to this case. And she brings in lawyers. They fire the public defenders and the appointed counsel, and in come the real lawyers, and that blows up everything. And then it becomes, again, just like they said in that interrogation room, hey, oh my God, we better hope that DNA evidence proves that Ty Tucker was present. And then guess what happens? The DNA evidence doesn't. It proves only Rory Wilson was the holder of that knife. And as a result, they go and that was when they decide to attempt to get Naheem Jackson as a confidential informant. Give me one moment, guys. Give me one moment.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Gonna learn the consequence of being incompetent. Mental health is confidence, dreams and some honestness. I'm not here to save the day, that's for you to take away. I could play a million mind games, but instead of
All right, guys. Sorry about the interruption there. But that's how this all begins. Okay, so this can happen to anyone, and that's the bottom line. This absolutely can happen to anyone, and it's a in the way it can happen to anyone is if for some reason you become a target for some reason of law enforcement. And they make a mistake, they don't want to admit their mistake. And that's what's happened to Ty Tucker in this case. They didn't want to admit their mistake. She didn't feel like, Penny Phelps had a certain way of doing business. And on top of that, there's a whole nother layer of the fact that Penny Phelps was involved in this case in the first place because she was there to shut it down. Because what happened is it wasn't supposed to be a killing. That no one was supposed to die with what was happening. Anthea Clay had set it up to be a scare tactic on Paula Belmont because Anthea was getting evicted by Matt Bonnet. And she set this thing up to say, hey, I want you to go over, rob her, take her drugs, beat her up, and send a message. And that was, you know, that was what was supposed to happen. And then it got out of control. And then when it got out of control, she reaches out to law enforcement, and they realize who's involved, and they realize her name's involved. And the problem was she was a confidential informant for the drug task force, the high intensity drug task force. It's called High Intensity Drug Traffic Area Task Force that Penny Phelps was the head of. So that's why the task force comes in and says, we got to solve this case, and we got to make sure Anthea Clay doesn't get picked up as a part of it, because she's a huge asset that we need in several cases that she was involved in. So as a result, they hit the scene, and they're trying to close this thing out as quickly as possible and button it up and keep this from moving up to Anthea. In other words, they need to discredit these guys who could say, one of them being Rory Wilson, they need to either be working with him or they need him convicted and sent away for life, so he's discredited when he says, well, Anthea Clay is involved in this. And that was the work they were doing. So the idea here was Penny Phelps says, I'm super cop. I'm going to come in and I'm going to shut this thing down. The other thing that we don't know is, remember, John Travis Johnson was picked up about a week before on drug charges. And remember, the drug task force is who's running this thing. We don't know why. And it is uncontrovertible. I've shown the video multiple times. It's on Free Franklin Tucker. 40 minutes after this thing happens, Penny Phelps is in front of the warehouse talking to John Travis Johnson, who is packing up his car, looking like he's trying to get out of town, lies to them multiple times in the conversation, and even tells them there's a black guy named Detroit with a pregnant woman living downstairs, and he tries to say, well, he's not there. I don't think he's there, and tries to get them away. And Penny Phelps does nothing but steers the investigation completely away from all of that. And then, of course, Travis ends up being the one that Penny Phelps is in communication with for the 3 to 4 days afterwards. And he also happens to be at the warehouse the night that Tucker and Wilson are picked up. He talks to Penny Phelps. Then he seems to get a pass throughout this whole thing, and he's the guy ultimately walking with a 5-year sentence, and we know he was involved. We know he drove them there. We know he was most likely, more likely than not, beyond 99.5% certainty based on the evidence, that he was the second guy that we saw walking up the street. We know Todd O'Quinn says, I saw a guy run out, jump in a truck, and get out of there. We know that Todd O'Quinn, the same night that Travis Johnson is confessing all of this, picks Travis out of a lineup and says, I can't say for certain because it was the distance, but that's the closest guy. That looks like that's the guy. His hair, everything. So we know he's involved. Absolutely 110% involved. Ty Tucker was never brought up in any of this. Paula Belmont says he's not involved. So it's a situation where it's a situation where it makes no sense. Now, here's the other thing. Here's a couple of other things that you need to know. And it's proven in the case files. While all this is going on with the confidential informants, Colleen Dunn, the corrupt prosecutor, suspended twice, asks for the codes from Pitcher. This is in Pitcher's deposition. Asks for the codes to access the videos that were on file where she can go in, delete, alter, change, snap up, etc. He gives them to her. They have the messages. He admits it in a deposition. He says, yes, I gave it to her. Never, ever been done before. She had access to all a prosecutor should never have access to that evidence. Not that section of it. And what happens? Shortly thereafter, there's a issue, and the Tom Thumb video of where it shows Travis and Ty backing up Travis's Ty's alibi, showing that he was at Tom Thumb after the crime took place, which would back up the fact that what Ty told the police happened, which is that he went to sleep, he woke up, Travis was already back there. He says, hey man, I'm going to walk up to Tom Thumb. Travis says, I'll walk up with you. And they walk up, and this is after Phelps and company, and everyone's already come. And he walks up there. That evidence destroyed. Where is the Keys Electric? I want you all to think about this. I want you to think about this. You've got to think about this. This is it. This is the biggest thing. Well, Jeff, he was fed. Have you not seen? I mean, I would say you need to go to the website, and it's absolutely right on tape what happened. You've got to watch his entire interrogation. Okay, it's the most egregious thing ever. There's an expert report which I have in my possession. I showed it in another live. That an expert on the read technique came in and watched it and agrees he was fed. And the story he told did not offer any new evidence. It did not offer anything that, nothing to verify it. And he repeated back the exact same story that she gave him. For 6 minutes, she told him the story. He came back and told it. On top of that, he filed a motion through his attorney saying that story was BS and that he was fed the story. He admitted he was fed, and that was the motion to suppress that Judge Jones kept out of the trial. And had he been confronted with that, because it's a document that was filed in court by his attorney, Seth LeVay, who was going to come in and testify to certify that document was truth. Seth LeVay, as a lawyer, has a requirement that he cannot submit false documentation to a court. So he has to have a basis of truth out of it. And that's what he was going to testify to, that was a basis of truth and that he filed that motion in good faith. When you look at that and the fact that Travis Johnson certifies in that motion or claims in that motion that he was fed the story, that he lied, and that he was pressured by Penny Phelps to implicate Ty Tucker in that interrogation, only to change it when he was offered a 5-year sentence that allowed him to get out of prison within 30 days of signing the deal. That should have been to the jury. There is no, I'm telling you, there is no question he was fed. You've got to watch the entire interrogation that John Travis Johnson was fed. And it's not even a hard question. Why is it so easy to believe Rory Wilson and not John Johnson? Because have you watched Rory Wilson's story? Have you watched what Rory Wilson told the police? Because Rory Wilson doesn't say Ty Tucker was involved. He says he was with John Travis Johnson that night. He says he wasn't with Ty. He said Ty had nothing to do with it. He genuinely looked shocked when Phelps is trying to say that he's involved. And then the story he gives is absolutely fictitious. It's crazy. Fictitious. And 3 other occasions, he gave stories that were so far off, the state couldn't even use them. They were trying to make a deal with them, but they didn't make sense. Rory Wilson's DNA is what's on the knife. Rory Wilson's DNA is on the mask that was found tucked away in, along the path back to the warehouse. John Travis Johnson, there is no other mask found. There's no other mask. There's no other knife found. You know where they're at? They're in his car. Why were they never found? Why did Rory have to tuck them away? I'll tell you why they're never found. They're never found because John Travis Johnson got in his truck like Todd O'Quinn saw and drove off. Todd O'Quinn has said from day one it was not Ty Tucker. He has never described, and he hasn't said so many words it was a Ty Tucker, but he gave a description of the individual without prompting that did not meet Ty Tucker's description. He never saw the long goatee. Remember, he says he pulled the mask off under the streetlights and saw a figure. He never said there was a goatee. He never said who it was. He described a body that was not at all in line with what Ty Tucker's looked like at that time. On top of that, here's the other thing. We see where is the tapes? The police have said they got destroyed. Why did they destroy, or why did the tapes get destroyed that would have shown Ty Tucker walking back to the warehouse? Where are those tapes? Remember, Ty Tucker walked back in one direction, and it would have taken him by Keys Electric. The same tape that you see when you see the only 2 people returning on tape, that is Roy Wilson and John Travis Johnson. You never see John Travis Johnson's truck return. It would have been on that tape. He should have been seen returning back. There was only one way to get back, and that is the direction that truck drove off and would have had to have driven off. It was seen driving off by Todd O'Quinn. So where are those tapes? Where are those tapes? So the Jeff, there was no Jägermeister Gator found. Okay. There was no Jägermeister Gator found ever. That was something that came up. They've never found a Jägermeister Gator. They never found a Jägermeister Gator at the warehouse. They never found it in John Travis Johnson's truck. The Jägermeister Gator is gone. It's nowhere to be found, and no one's ever seen it. And the Jägermeister Gator was something that he came up with. Maybe he was wearing a Jägermeister Gator and he got rid of it. But remember, Jeff, you have to remember, if he was involved, he just would have described whatever he was wearing. So he would have been able to describe it. That was the point that Ty made, which was it wasn't hard for John Travis Johnson to take on the role of describing what Ty would have done, what Ty would have worn, because all he would have had to do was describe what he was wearing, what he was in, what he was on. Remember, Roger Ruggett came in contact with that individual who was there that night. He did not describe a Jägermeister Gator. In fact, Ty asked him, did you see? It was something that would have been absolutely very identifiable. And Roger Ruggett said, no, I did not see it. It was just a black, it was like a black, like Halloween style mask. Okay. So there was no gator. The gator was added in. Why do you think there was a gator added in? That was suggested and added in by Penny Phelps when she was interrogating John Travis Johnson, because she already acknowledged, this is the part you have to go look and listen to. You have to listen to the hot mic interrogation videos. There's 3 of them. They last about 6 hours long. And you hear them talking. You hear them talking and planning it out and acknowledging the issue of the beard. So they came up with that to explain why, if he pulls it down, Todd O'Quinn would have never seen the beard. And then remember, when they get to the grand jury, this was the due process issues that Ty keeps talking about. And it's been a long time since I covered this, because I covered the motion to dismiss. It was a long time ago. But one of the main issues is Todd O'Quinn's testimony was hidden from the grand jury. It was only turned over to defense 2 years later, after Internal Affairs got involved and discovered all of that information in Danielle Malone's office and in Penny Phelps' office. They were holding evidence outside of the evidence storage facility in their own offices, hiding it. And it got caught because they got busted by IA, because IA opened an investigation. So that is, and that alone is tremendous, because why did they want to hide Todd O'Quinn? Because they knew Todd O'Quinn didn't see a guy with a beard. They knew Todd O'Quinn didn't see a guy that looked like Ty Tucker. They knew Todd O'Quinn said it was a younger guy, and it was a skinnier build, and he was smaller than Ty Tucker, much the build of John Travis Johnson. Also, you're forgetting the fact that Paula Belmont, the famous video with picture where she's talking about, she comes in and says, I heard it was JoJo. I heard JoJo was with him. Now, she didn't know who John Travis Johnson was. She had no idea who that dude was. He was over, remember, he was up in Detroit. He'd just come back. He was hanging out up there. John Travis Johnson acknowledged, I didn't know Paula. I didn't know any of those people at the treehouse. She says she heard that Roy did this with JoJo. This is the day after. She's in a car with picture. This interview was hidden for 2 years. And she says, I heard it was JoJo, and that's who came up. And that JoJo was the guy that came up and visited me. And she said before this even happened, they had stopped by, came up, talked to her, and then left. And she knew it wasn't Ty. Remember, and at that time, Paula and Ty were not friends. She had no allegiance to Ty. If she believed Ty slit her neck or was involved in beating up Roger Ruggett, her friend and I think lover at one point, she would have had no qualms about naming Ty Tucker at that time. You know, so it's like, you know, so it's a situation where you just have, no reason for her to cover up for him at that moment. And that's why, that's the things that, again, That's the things that the state are hiding. That's why this is so frustrating. Correct, DG. DG says someone saying they seen someone isn't enough evidence to convict someone of murder. There's absolutely no physical evidence. Ty was involved. There is none. The DNA evidence absolves him. There's not one shred of evidence linking Ty Tucker to this case, but John Travis Johnson. And that is because that's because Penny Phelps introduced Ty Tucker to this case. That's the thing you've got to understand. Ty Tucker wasn't on the radar. He wasn't being discussed. He wasn't anywhere near this case until he walks into Boost Mobile to pay his phone bill. And he happens to be on camera with the guy who's known as Detroit. And then they look back and they pull up his Facebook picture and they think, oh, this is a guy. This guy looks bad. This guy looks like a jerk. And also, too, Ty posted on his Free Franklin Tucker site. He was known by the police. He was a guy down there in terms of someone who pushed back against them a little bit. There was footage a couple of months before where he was getting harassed in the park. Jeff, that's exactly correct. That is going to be, that's why he needs lawyers to raise those issues. And yes, there's ways that can be used, but here's the thing. The thing Ty was concerned about is Judge Jones may or may not have done what he needed to do, because I will tell you this, it's not automatic. He would have to have and it's what we're going to see how they handle this in the Karen Reed case. And that is this. The first thing you have to do is you have to establish through testimony during trial that those pieces of evidence were in fact in the possession of the police and that they had an opportunity to view them and become aware of what was on them. Then you have to establish, obviously, you had them, so they're not here now. And then you'll have to have a hearing outside the presence of the jury, and then you can raise that issue and say, listen, and again, this is where the Osakalumi case comes in, and you got to have other cases too that you can bring in if there's anything similar in Florida, but you can ask the judge then to say, all right, here's this case, here's what we have, and what we need now is we have evidence that's exculpatory to the defendant. This is how we feel it would have been exculpatory. This is what we believe it would have shown. We established that through our questioning, our cross-examination, etc. We're asking now that the jury be given an instruction that says this evidence that could have possibly led to Ty Tucker confirming Ty Tucker's alibi is missing, and therefore you should assume that because the police lost it, you should assume that that's what it would have had on it. You're not going to hold that against Ty Tucker. You're actually going to put that in his favor. Well, no, it's not as simple. It is somewhat as simple, but you've also got to here's the thing. A judge has got to decide that you're entitled to, because again, what the jury can infer from it, because if the jury says, well, they're not there, okay, fine. No, I understand, Jeff. It's good questions. So the fact that they're missing can come in, but what you really need is the fact, well, what does the jury do with that? And in some cases, the state might file a motion in limine and ask and in fact, in the case that this all originated in West Virginia back in 1995, the state asked, hey, this couch is missing. It shouldn't be brought up that it was missing, and it was kept out of the case. So, as a result, on appeal, they raised this issue. They said, no, the correct thing that should have happened here is this should have been made aware to the jury that these were missing. A judge, and as long as the judge finds that, yes, this evidence was in possession of the police, yes, the police would have had an opportunity, should have preserved it. Yes, the police failed to preserve it and failed to protect it. Then as a result of that failure, an instruction will be given that says there was evidence in possession of the police that could have given Ty Tucker an alibi. And you should go ahead and assume it would have given Ty Tucker an alibi. So you can go ahead and presume, if you find these things to be true. So then it becomes an issue before the jury. Do they believe the police lost them and purposely lost them and that it would have had that? And then they have the right to then consider that as evidence that Ty Tucker had an alibi. Sorry about that. I hit my microphone. Obviously, yes, correct. Well, here's the thing though, DG, you got to understand Ty, his wife was willing to, his wife was not in support of necessarily of him representing himself. That was his idea because he feels like, he felt like he was being railroaded here. And he felt like the judge, and again, that's kind of the misunderstanding that Ty has, where he believed that the judge was supposed to throw this out. And again, also remember this too. It was not 100%. You see, this is the part that a lot of people forget. And again, I know not everybody watches every video I put out, and some stuff's portions of videos where you're maybe not seeing it. So for all of you listening now, know this fact. Ty specifically wanted to be pro se because he wanted to file a motion to try to get the judge out, and he wanted to be able to put things in that motion that he knew his attorneys wouldn't be comfortable with. When he went pro se and he was about to file, he was filing these motions, okay? He got wind that John Travis Johnson was going to, was not available to testify. So as a result, he decided to go forward with trial on his own without bringing his attorneys back in, because originally the strategy was going to be he was going to file a motion to throw Judge Jones off the case. It was going to go to the head judge, and they were going to allege, and he was going to put all this stuff in it, like he did back in 2019. And he was going to see if he could get the trial delayed, because the judge had set the special trial date, said we're going forward. And then they found out that it was possible that John Travis Johnson wasn't even available. So then they decided to abandon that. And I only know about this because I heard Ty talking, I believe it was on Civil Law, he was talking about this. He may have talked about it on a couple of other platforms. But he was talking about this, and he says, then he shows up, he says, well, I'm going to, show up there. And he was expecting that if they showed up and they didn't have John Travis Johnson because he's out either OD'd somewhere or just unavailable, that they would be forced to then put on a case that would involve Roger Ruggett, Danielle Malone, and he'd show up down in court and then have no case. And then he would force Judge Jones to enter to grant his judgment of acquittal because there would be no evidence. They wouldn't have even made a prima facie case to say that the case should move to a jury. That was his strategy. Well, guess what? Surprise, surprise. He shows up, finds out when he gets down there, John Travis Johnson is in fact there, and he's ready to testify. And then Ty starts scrambling to get his case put together, filing subpoenas, getting Paula involved, all that stuff. DG, she needs to convince him. Yes. Well, she's working on that. She knows that. He know, but at the end of the day, Ty is his own, well, now, Jeff, I want you to know the motion to dismiss was filed by his attorneys. That was handled all by his attorneys all last year. And the judge just flat out refused to dismiss it. In fact, he went the extra 9 yards and said that this case, that no due process rights were violated, that the investigation was great. And they had him gagged at the time. So Ty couldn't even respond. His attorneys couldn't respond. They were very upset about it. But as I was explaining to Ty the other night, he needed to, he still should have let them take the case to the jury, because you don't get this case beat by a judge. You're going to get it beat by letting your skilled attorneys take this to a jury and point out the weaknesses of the case, and let hopefully 12 jurors in the box find him not guilty, and then he beats them. But he didn't trust that. He was worried the judge was going to keep stuff out, was going to talk down to his attorneys in court, was going to put things on the record that he shouldn't, and he felt like he was the only one that could maybe help with that. But really what he wanted to do was he wanted to file a motion to throw the judge off the case, and his attorneys weren't open to that. So he said, well, then I'm going to throw you out of the case right now, and I'm going to file the motion, and we're going to do this. And then once we do that, once we get Judge Jones out of the case, we'll talk about bringing you guys back in if the new judge doesn't throw this case out. Well, as I mentioned, he finds out John Travis Johnson might be in the wind, heads down there for trial, and ends up in trial. And an unprepared Ty Tucker takes this case to trial and gets a mistrial, 9-3. That is incredible that someone with no legal skills is able to go before a jury in a complex capital case and get a 9-3 mistrial on all charges. 9-3, no conviction. So, of course, now, yes, this is why attention's been brought to the case. People are aware of it. We need more attention to it. We need to get people involved in this that are covering it, that are far bigger than YouTube, and really, really look into it. Because I'm confident, and when they look into it, don't take my word for it. Don't believe what I'm saying. Go find your own evidence, because when you look into this, you will find exactly what I found. Well, right, DG, he was, and he absolutely was, because he was part. Remember, this judge, but this judge. This is what I'm saying. Ty should never have expected that this judge was going to do that, because this judge is the judge that gagged him. This is the judge that created a gag order that ran every document through him so that he could decide what was going to the public and what wasn't. What was and wasn't going to hit the public spectrum. So he could cover it up. He covered it up. He was wrong. He kept saying the judge kept stuff out when, in fact, Ty didn't know how to legally get it in. He wasn't denied witnesses. He could. Well, no. Now, Jeff, here's the thing. Vinny Politan even addressed this. Okay, so because Ty was pro se, what they did to him there and Vinny acknowledged, basically put this out. They did not conduct themselves the way they're supposed to when a pro se person is in there. The judge was supposed to help him get these things done, and instead they used it against him. And in other words, get the subpoena, make sure the subpoenas were right. They ended up when the subpoenas were done, the dates of the subpoenas, that should have been an easy thing. That should have just been pushed out. What the judge refused to do was Ty filed a motion. He did file a motion correctly. He followed correct procedure to try to get Todd O'Quinn in, number one. The judge denied it. Then Seth LeVay, he denied to allow. Seth LeVay asked and said, I'll come in and certify it, and said, I would like to have Seth LeVay come in and testify, and he denied him doing that. So there was some from the judge. But the bottom line is, what I do agree with you on is you should have had attorneys doing this stuff. This is why you don't represent yourself. Although the reason why this thing was so the reason why this turned into a mistrial, and hello, Carmen, thanks, welcome. T.S. Jackson, welcome. That's what they did, because remember, the judge and the prosecutors were all on a team, and they were, and that's what I'm worried about with this judge. This judge basically what this judge made it clear is he's like, Mr. Tucker, if you want to proceed pro se, fine, no problem. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to tell you what needs to be done. It's your job to figure it out, and it's your job to have it done by deadline. And when you don't meet that deadline, consider it waived. Go back. I think it was the very first hearing that Ty put up on a Zoom hearing. You could actually hear both sides, I think, on that one. And he tells Ty that. And that was when I thought, I don't like this judge at all. I don't think this is a good thing. And Ty needs to get a lawyer. Boom. This new judge is just as bad, in my opinion, what he's doing to Ty. Yeah, absolutely. He's been on my advice. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Again, it's very clear and obvious. Nothing you've said proves Ty is guilty. It doesn't matter about anything except what he has done to commit the crime. There's zero evidence beyond Travis says he did. That is correct, Britt Morris. There is zero evidence beyond what Travis says. I'm surprised the last judge didn't revoke his. Well, because see, DG, the last judge didn't feel comfortable, I don't think, because I think it was like he was worried because, see, you have to remember, the last judge was the head of this thing. He was the gatekeeper. He was the keeper of the secrets. That's why he got so nervous. The best thing ever was when you watch the end of that trial and Mansfield says, we want to reinstate the gag order, judge. And the judge about has a stroke on the stand. Oh, I'm not sure I want to do that, Mr. Mansfield. It's, oh my God, we got to look at that. I want to go back. It was involved. He was worried about one thing, that if they put that gag order in effect, Vinnie Politan would go pull that gag order. Law and Crime would go pull that gag order, and they would see how unconstitutional it was. They would see a couple of things in there. Number one, Lauren Janae was gagged, unconstitutionally gagged, and that should have been challenged. Two, they would see that the judge didn't just stop Ty Tucker from speaking. He decided to control the flow of documents as they were going to be available to the public and opened up an avenue to seal anything that the state felt they didn't want out that was embarrassing to them. And that judge the judge was going to be explicitly aware of all of this because it required an in-camera review, meaning it required him to review the documents and then seal it in a 90-day window. Well, yeah, absolutely, because he had Ty completely waive everything, waive any conflicts, and he really wasn't even playing nice. Ty just was missing it, and you could almost say, since Mr. Tucker seems to like me, and you almost saw a smirk on his face, like, yeah, we'll see if you like me in a little bit. And he warned him. He said, I got a warrant on my desk. I haven't done anything with it, but I may do something with it. He warned him about it. I mean, this guy was going to do this to him, but Ty just, was hopeful that this guy was going to be willing to look at this thing, give it a fresh set of eyes. But that's also the problem when you're so emotionally involved in something, you don't see the danger right at your front door. I wonder if Mark Schreiner could help him or recommend someone who could. He represented Travis Rudolph. I don't know. I mean, that would be, if you want to, T.S. Jackson, go on the Facebook page and of Free Franklin Tucker and Lauren Janae, put up there that she is looking for recommendations for attorneys. So put his information up there, and she, I'm sure, would be open and willing to reach out because, yeah, Mark Scheiner is a great attorney. He did a hell of a job. I like him a lot. I remember watching him do the Rudolph case, and I just posted a short not too long ago of the Rudolph verdict, he's a really good attorney. He'd be great. I mean, look, there's a lot of great attorneys that I think could come in and beat this case and beat the pants off of them. Now, they don't like outside attorneys, but you know what? It don't matter if they know what they're doing. DG, I don't know if he did it or not, but sworn eyewitness testimony is 100%. It's up to the jury to assess the credibility, but make no mistake, it is evident. Okay, well, here's the thing, Jeff. The sworn eyewitness testimony says he didn't do it. The only person, eyewitness testimony would not be a co-defendant's testimony or a co-conspirator's testimony. That's not eyewitness. That is a co-conspirator's allegations, and that is not 100%. And that certainly is something that should be skeptical, because when someone's taking a deal to get, and the state is giving them a deal where they get out of prison 5 years' time, and their story doesn't make any sense, and there's no corroboration, and they give a story that's fed to them first by a police officer. Remember, one of the standards is when you're doing the read technique is you're supposed to assess the story based on the new facts it brings, based on the corroborating facts that it brings to the case. Okay. And in fact, Hold on a second here. Give me a moment here. I've got to find something here. But it's but in this case, there was no new evidence brought into that was brought up by John Travis Johnson. So as a result, it failed to meet the tests of being a accurate or reliable statement. And if that is all you have, you don't, and then the eyewitnesses like Paula Belmont, Todd O'Quinn, Roger Ruggett says he can't identify who it was, then, and the DNA evidence says it wasn't him. Well, now you have a real problem. Now you have a real problem with the case. You have no evidence then at that point. And you certainly don't meet the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. And the jury, of course, got distracted. I'm trying to find a document here, but I can't seem to. Let me see if it's letter to court. Let's see here. I wish I could find it. I'd love to. Oh, wait a minute. Is this it? No, that's not it. Oh, hold on. All right, let me see here. All right, let me go back into my treehouse stuff here. Now, yeah, sir, I can assure you, Jeff is not a troll. Definitely not. Definitely not. He is. He's a long time been on this channel. He is 100% not a troll. So Jeff is he's a good standing guy, good stand up guy. He's just raising devil's advocate, and I can tell you, we watched the Nicolay Mew case together. Definitely not a troll. Has very good thoughts, but he's just bringing bringing the other side to this thing, which is sometimes what we need, and making sure that we're not getting too far away from getting too emotionally involved, much like our friend Mr. Tucker has. But no, Jeff is a good stand up guy here. Let me see here. I'm trying to find this tag on it. I can't believe I can't find it. Let me see if it's. All right, so that's the trial documents. Let me see if maybe it's under. Do I have it under John Travis Johnson? All right. Well, unfortunately, I can't find it. But there was a document I wanted to show you guys. But anyways, where this was an expert said, assessed the John Travis Johnson interrogation and basically said without a doubt that this was a setup, or that not a setup, but that the way the interrogation was handled, it created issues, and it was a read technique, and it discusses how terrible she did it, and that essentially you cannot trust or rely on John Travis Johnson's statement or what he told the police. But I can't seem to find it, so I apologize. I had it in a different. I brought it up in a different stream, but I don't know why I don't have it here. It's an important document, but I'll find it. It's probably buried in one of my folders that I have or whatnot. Here it is. I think I found it. Hold on. Yep, I got it. Okay, here we go. Awesome. Give me one moment, guys. Let's share this thing. Oh, I gotta, just like that, just when I was about to give up. All right, let's go to the extreme here. And Treehouse Docs. All right, here we are. Okay. So let's share my screen real quick. Expert interrogation. And then let's jump into full screen. All right. So here it is, guys. This is actually an expert that Ty and his defense team had reviewing this. So we're going to review this individual. We'll review this here. I submit this declaration as an expert in criminal interrogations to inform the court of my credentials and prospective testimony in the above titled case. Personal background and qualifications, just so you understand who this person is. The 2022-2023 academic year marks my 16th year as a professor at Williams College, teaching law-related courses. I graduated magna cum laude and Phi Beta Kappa from Amherst College in 1981 and graduated in 1985 from Yale Law School, where I was editor of the Yale Law Journal. After law school, I was a law clerk for Judge Edward Becker on the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit, followed by 3 years as a senior attorney writer at the Federal Judicial Center in Washington. These are all the publications he's had. My expertise in this area is recognized nationwide. In the 2007 American Bar Association listed my website, truthaboutfalseconfessions.com, and its top 100 related websites, and first among criminal law websites. I am frequently contacted by media and attorneys seeking consultation. I've been formally retained as an expert consultant in more than 250 cases and have testified in 42. He's been qualified in Florida, Alaska, Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Massachusetts, Montana, New Hampshire, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, South Carolina, Vermont, Virginia. You see all of them here. So he gets into the background about false confessions here and says that there have been documented cases of people who confessed to crimes that they did not commit. In the 1990s, social scientists and legal scholars began undertaking studies and developing an extensive literature advancing understanding of interrogations and confessions. This work has been conterminous with another crucial development, in large part due to DNA testing. The surprising prevalence of false confessions has been established. DNA testing, and I want you to understand, DNA testing in this case is here, right? We have a state attorney who knows DNA testing has exonerated Ty Tucker. This expert is saying if you have DNA and you have a false confession, go with the DNA. The DNA has exonerated close to 400 persons convicted of crimes. More than 1/4 had confessed. Spurred by this discovery, reformers redoubled efforts to identify false confessions. Many hundreds of proven false confessions have been documented, and virtually everyone acquainted with this area recognizes that these cases represent only a sliver of the cases of false confessions. Interrogation methods widely utilized by law enforcement significantly contribute to false confessions. The basic approach is often referred to as the Reed technique because Reed and Associates has produced the most influential interrogations manual and training programs. The literature referenced in footnote 1 documents and explains the correlation between this method and false confessions. Confrontation and minimization are at the heart of the Reid technique. Confrontation involves interrogators expressing certainty of the suspect's guilt and aggressively thwarting his denials, as well as confronting the suspect with evidence, often exaggerated or fabricated, allegedly establishing his guilt. Minimization involves introducing themes, accident, provocation, justification, secondary role. That's what they use. That's what Penny Phelps was using against the people she tried to use it in this case, that explicitly or implicitly reduce the severity of the crime or the suspect's culpability. Confrontation communicates to the suspect the futility of maintaining innocence, whereas minimization implies that confessing will avert serious punishment. Accordingly, confrontation frightens the suspect and brings on despair. Minimization supplies a lifeline, especially when used together. They have been shown to break down innocent as well as guilty suspects. Awareness that the Reid technique contributes to false confessions is not limited to the academy. In 2017, one of the leading schools of interrogation, Wicklander and Zulawski, announced that on the account of Reid technique's tendency to produce false confessions, they were no longer trained interrogators in this method of interrogation. While the literature primarily deals with false confessions, the Reid technique also contributes to false confessions. Indeed, false confessions often accompany false confessions. The suspect acknowledges participation in a crime while assigning greater culpability to an accomplice. Moreover, there is reason to believe that people interviewed about potential crimes by others may be even more susceptible to making false statements than suspects interrogated about their own possible wrongdoing. A confession or accusation is most reliable when generative, and this is the important fact that everybody needs to understand with this. If it generates new evidence previously unknown to law enforcement, it is least reliable when it contradicts known facts about the crime. Apply that to this case and what you know of John Travis Johnson's confession. It generated no new evidence. It contradicted facts about the case. Application to the present case. He's going to go ahead and discuss that right here. I was retained by attorney Jerome Bellarato to assess the interrogation of John Travis Johnson and Mr. Johnson's accusation of homicide against Mr. Ballarato's client, Franklin Tyrone Tucker. To make this assessment, I have relied primarily on the videotaped interrogations of Mr. Johnson. I've also reviewed Mr. Johnson's motion to suppress his statements at his own trial and discussed the case with Mr. Bellarato. So I want you to understand that motion to suppress is very important. During the interrogation of Mr. Johnson, Captain Penny Phelps aggressively engaged in the Reid technique. Captain Phelps expressed certainty that Johnson was involved in the crime. A plan to rob the victim hatched, according to Phelps, by Johnson, Rory Wilson, and Tucker that went awry and resulted in the victim's death. Captain Phelps claimed falsely to have proof of Mr. Johnson's involvement. We have your truck on video, you, Rory, and Ty all on video. This was standard Reid technique confrontation. Captain Phelps combined this confrontation with extensive minimization. She asserted that Mr. Johnson's intentions never included hurting anyone. He would not have participated if the plan involved violence because that's not you. You're not that kind of guy. Captain Phelps assigned Mr. Johnson a relatively minor role in the crime and suggested he was a good person who made a bad mistake, a nonviolent person who got jammed up in a bad thing. These are common minimization themes. Captain Phelps urged Mr. Johnson to place blame for the crime on Mr. Tucker, the asshole in the story, who broke bad and killed the victim. Johnson eventually adopted Phelps' version of events wholesale. His accusation and concomitant confession was non-generative, merely telling Captain Phelps what she claimed to already know. And to my knowledge, Mr. Johnson's version of events is contradicted by scientific evidence and eyewitness testimony. Significantly, Mr. Johnson himself has described how the Reid technique broke him down and produced a false account from him. His motion to suppress his confession at his trial states as follows. Captain Phelps not only lied to Mr. Johnson about video surveillance, which did not exist, but also the former captain repeatedly lied to Mr. Johnson regarding statements made by witnesses as other suspects, which were never made, in order to incentivize John Travis Johnson into making a false confession. Mr. Johnson subsequently recanted this recantation, but as part of a plea agreement that ended his incarceration. Applying my knowledge of criminal interrogations as described in paragraphs above to the facts of this case described in paragraph, I can say with certainty that Mr. Johnson's accusation of Mr. Tucker came after he was exposed to the interrogation tactics known to contribute false confessions and false accusations. Moreover, his accusation did not generate new evidence and is contradicted by independent evidence. Accordingly, in my opinion, there is no substantial reason to question the reliability. There is substantial reason to question the reliability of Mr. Johnson's accusation of Mr. Tucker. So, with that said, guys, that's from an expert. Okay? That's from an expert on interrogation who reviewed this case, the evidence in this case. So let's see here. What's my friend Jeff saying up here, getting everybody upset? If you have comments, remember, guys, listen. Jeff is who we need to convince, because Jeff, there will be people on that jury that will feel like Jeff does, and we have to figure out how do we communicate with them. We don't want to, tell that person, hey, get out of here. You don't belong with us because you don't believe us. We need, if the evidence is as strong as we think supporting innocence, we need to figure out how to help Jeff see this. So Jeff, and again, if Ty Tucker's future defense lawyer is watching, someone like Jeff is who you need to be talking to figure out what do we need Jeff to see in this case to help him? And do you, Jeff, Jeff, would you acknowledge that there is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt? Well, now, Jeff, see, that's what I'm saying. While you would not be on his jury, but there could be someone like yourself sitting on that jury. So I like the fact that you're here telling us you think he's guilty. But my question to you would be, having reviewed the case, do you believe he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? In other words, if you were sitting on the jury, not with a question of, do you think he probably did it in real life or not? But as in, I don't know if you watched that first trial. And if you didn't, maybe we're aired again at some point so we can watch it and see what you think. So you would agree, even with your suspicions and belief that he's guilty, you would say, if you were sitting on that jury and asked to vote beyond a reasonable doubt, you yourself would have a problem voting that he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Is that a correct statement? Because if it's not, that's great, because we can delve into it. But there's, in this case is, at a very minimum. Well, Carmen, the reason why the bond is set so high is because they don't want him to get out. That's why. And because they know that he has resources. They know he has resources to get out. And they know that she, as in Lauren Janae, has resources, and they want to make it so he can't get out. They want to make it so that she can't post the bond. Okay. Now, Tommy says guilty. Tommy, why do you say guilty? What do you believe is the evidence? And I don't know how long you've been watching. Right. Well, DG, that's why they're going to go higher. A lot of times in these instances, they set the bond higher because the idea is you weren't listening. So now you got to put more money up to be in compliance. It's like a penalty. Basically, think of it like this. He's getting fined $110,000 because actually, here's the thing though. Actually, what you need to consider, his original bond was $2 million. It was lowered to $100,000. So right now, only $10,000 had to be put up as 10%, or maybe the whole $100,000 was put up. I have no idea. I don't know that information. And as a result, they have now made it 31 times higher, and essentially creating a fine of $300,000 essentially on him. Or no, is that Is that right? Well, yeah, 10% would be $310,000. And remember, when you post the 10%, you don't get it back. You have to pay that to a bondsman, and that's the fee. So that's what they're doing here. Well, now you're going to have to pay a $300,000 deal. Your wife's going to be mad at you, and maybe you'll be more incentivized this time to make sure he shows up at the test on time and does what he's supposed to do. Luisa Rodriguez. So Luisa, now you think he's guilty from the start. You find him annoying, and nobody is going to argue about the fact that someone could consider him annoying or arrogant or various different things. But the question would be, what is the evidence you believe that makes him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? So Jeff says, JIP, JIAP. All right, justice of process. Here's my official position. I'm not convinced that Ty Tucker is innocent because he's convinced me with his defense. I would vote him not guilty because the state didn't prove its case. Okay, fair enough. Hey, you know what? Fair enough, Jeff. And that's why I think it's dangerous for Ty to be worried about, at least for purposes of his trial. The focus shouldn't be on innocence. Never. That's a burden that's too high. Because if you're going to say, hey, I'm going to show you I'm innocent. That's why I hate when defense attorneys get up there and say I'm innocent. That's why I'm a little, always makes me worried when you have something like Karen Reed's case. We're going to prove she was framed. No, we're going to prove the state can't prove their case. We're going to question things. We're going to question the evidence. We're going to question the collection of evidence. We're going to question how the investigation was conducted. These are questions that bring up a reasonable doubt. We're going to suggest to you that it's a possibility that this happened or that happened, or police played with the evidence. All of that is reasonable doubt. All of that shows you why you should convict this person, because you can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this person is guilty. And that is what I think needs to happen in this case, because this is a case that's easy. This is like there's no other case that I can think of that is a clear-cut reasonable doubt than this case. I mean, honestly, and it frustrates me that we only had a mistrial in this case, because it should have been a not guilty. I mean, this is just a not guilty verdict all day long. There's no way in the world you could sit here and have listened to that case and have it argued by an attorney and not be sitting there thinking to yourself, there's no way you could come to a guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Let's see what Luisa Rodriguez says. I think he befriended that lady so she would say it wasn't him. He bought her things and flashed his newfound money her way. Okay. Now, Luisa, where is your evidence of that? Where did what you're saying is exactly what the state wanted you to infer, but there is no evidence he ever gave her a dime. There's no evidence she benefited from that. That was never presented at trial. That was inferred by the suggestion that she took a trip out to California to visit family. There is not one shred of evidence that Lauren Janae ever gave her a dime. Okay? None. And that's just flat out. So the lady being befriended, she was saying it wasn't Ty Tucker long before they were ever friends. Louisa, you have to go back you have to go to Ty Tucker's YouTube site, and you have to go pull up Paula Belmont's interviews with police officer Pitcher, and that dispels all of that. That's the thing. You're making an assumption here based on what that prosecutor wants you to do, but that's only because you don't actually have the evidence that exists. The evidence being the day after, she is not a friend of Ty Tucker's. There's not been a dime thrown her way. She knows that Ty Tucker is his acquaintance on the island. She would eventually run in down there. They knew of each other. And she's selling the police officer picture. I heard it was JoJo. There's not a word spoken of Ty Tucker. She had no reason to cover for Ty Tucker at that time. None. This is why an attorney needed to sit up in front of that jury and make that abundantly clear to them. She had no reason to cover for Ty during that time. Ty and her, she started to like Ty because she felt he was being wrongfully accused. Because she found out that the DNA evidence didn't match Ty Tucker. Because she found out that The detective in the case was lying. That's why she befriended Ty Tucker. It had nothing to do with money. Not a doggone thing to do with money. It had nothing to do with a trip. Lauren Janae didn't put a dime in her pocket. Okay? Ty Tucker was down there on the Facebook page for the first time ever on her Facebook page taking pictures. Listen, it'd be one thing if they had pictures of Ty Tucker and Lauren Janae and her kids and they're out there and they're running around. She was in California. They live in Oregon. There was no evidence that there was never any evidence that Lauren Janae or Ty Tucker or anyone associated with Ty Tucker's defense team did a thing for her. That was just something that developed that as the judge kind of telegraphed and told Mr. Tucker, you'll be surprised what they can argue in closing arguments. Because remember, in closing arguments, they don't have to tell the truth. They can argue the evidence means anything. There's so much leeway in closings. That's why they say many closings. Listen, I don't know if you guys have ever read you should take a moment to read John Glatt's book on the Murdoch case, because he actually talks about and discusses old man Murdoch, not the one that's sitting in jail. This is his grandfather, and how he used to win these cases on closing arguments. He would stand up there and straight up lie to the jury and tell the jury, essentially scaring them into finding a guilty verdict and sentencing a man to death by saying outrageous, egregious things. And down there, because they had the judges, everybody in their pocket, they let it happen. So that's what happened here. Well, openings, now, Jeff, I will correct you. Openings are not argument. They're just a statement. So there's limitations. But the closing arguments is an argument, and it is limited in what it is. And it is, it is fair game. But all the opening statement is you can just say what you anticipate the evidence will be. You can't make an argument. You see those objections come all the time, and they start to argue. Come crime with me. Welcome. Yes, unfortunately, he got a violation he got his bond violated because on the 10th of April, he showed up to take his alcohol test. He showed up late. He was not supposed to show up late, but he showed up late, waited in line. His registration expired. And when he gets up there, they said, you can't take your test today, Mr. Tucker, because your registration expired. You have to come back on another day. He called pretrial services, got them involved, said, I'm here. I need to take this test. Pretrial guy says, I'll handle it. He calls the facility. They work on it. He says, Ty, be there in the morning, first thing in the morning, and take your test. So he leaves. He comes back the next day, but guess what? He doesn't show up first thing in the morning. He shows up late. He does take the test. He passes the test. The judge gets wind that he missed the scheduled test on the 10th and revoked his bond instead of $3.1 million bond. That issues an arrest warrant, requires him to be taken into custody or post $3.1 million, which they do not have $3.1 million to post. So that's what's going on. So then, of course, he's planning to go self-surrender and try to get down there and figure this out and contest it. And he doesn't follow procedure with that either. He, unfortunately, was supposed to be escorted by his bail bondsman, much like O.J. Simpson was escorted back when he had his Vegas case and the bail bondsman flew into Miami and he escorts him back. And he was even captured on an episode of Jail, and as they were covering in Nevada jails at that time. And he instead goes to the airport. And when he does, he leaves his home confinement, and ankle monitor notifies the authorities he's outside the house. A fugitive warrant gets issued. So now he's picked up. So it's possible they might try to get him for absconding. In other words, like he left without permission, but hopefully that doesn't happen. I think that's ridiculous. But that's where we're at now. So now he's sitting in a Portland jail, awaiting to find. He'll have to appear in court, possibly Monday, possibly Tuesday. We're not sure. We'll find out. I'm going to be covering it. I have a link to the courts in Portland. So we'll see if he ends up appearing or not. We're not certain on that 110%. if he'll be there Monday or Tuesday. And I think he's also looking into, and I think he was going to look into anyways because he was going back to jail. We were talking the other night. He's also look forward to the potential possibility that his attorneys re-enter the case at this point for the simple fact that he needs the help. He's got a pretty complicated situation ahead of him now. Let's see here, Louisa. Okay, so you're saying DG, great, thanks. DG. Let's see here. I'm missing some comments here. Let me take a look here. Okay, first of all, yeah, Louisa, a couple of things to understand. Ty was not smoking crack that night, well, by his own testimony. Maybe he was, but he says, John Travis Johnson now says he was, but remember, so, well, Louisa, you have to understand, he wasn't a resident of that place. So, yes, he was not a crackhead. See, this is the part a lot of people don't understand. They just hear that he was staying there. He was not a resident of that place. They were not his friends. He was staying there temporarily to help out a friend. That is established. That is a proven fact. He was there to help out another gentleman who had gotten a restraining order that didn't allow him to be around someone in that place. When that person returned, he had to leave. He reached out to Ty, and Ty was going to be off for a few days from work. He said, Ty, I've got to leave, but I can't, I have nowhere to put my stuff. We're getting a hotel. I have a whole bunch of stuff in this apartment. I've got to move it all out, but I don't want these people here that are living there. There's a bunch of crackheads. There's a bunch of people that are living there who will steal your stuff. So I don't want that to happen. Can you come stay here for a few days until I can get my stuff out? That's what happened. So he goes there to stay there for a few days. Very unfortunate decision for Ty Tucker. But that's why he was there. He was not an associate. So he was there playing cards with him. He played dominoes with him. But he was drinking Fireball and smoking weed. He was not doing crack. Okay? That's not true. Now, those guys were. Other people in that house were. Right? That's what they were after. But he was just kind of there. And that's why everybody said Ty was the guy that would be like counseling the young bucks. Hey, man, don't do that. That's going to get you in trouble. And then, but he wasn't going to stop them from doing it. That was his role. And again, I'm not making this up. Go on his website that he put up all of the discovery videos, and you can see police statements from people that were in that house giving statements about who Ty Tucker was, what his role was in that house. And you also see the fact Ty Tucker was never implicated at all until Penny Phelps implicated him and suggested that he was involved. But even if he was smoking crack, it doesn't necessarily mean that he was going to go do this. So that alone shouldn't even be considered. But I'm just saying we can also say that isn't even a factor. But yes, even if he was, it doesn't necessarily that should not just mean, hey, he was doing that. What is he making up, Louisa? What's he making up? Because what he said is backed up by evidence and corroboration. I didn't just believe him. He said, check out this, check out that. I went into the court case. I'm not relying, the things I've went and, the things I've went and saw did not all come from Ty Tucker's website. I went into, like anyone can, go to the Monroe County Clerk's office. You can go back for 7 years. There's a wealth of documents. There's a wealth of documentation. There's transcripts. There's depositions. There's police reports. There's incident reports. There's police statements. All on that site now, all open for public dissemination because the gag order got lifted. Well, yeah, DG, the other thing is, I mean, you lose your teeth if you're homeless, so you don't have a dental plan, and you're out there on the street, you're drinking, and you're not brushing your teeth. I mean, yeah. I mean, but, yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't, Ty has it. Ty, I think maybe doesn't communicate things as clearly as well. He says something and it doesn't always come across the way he wants to because he's trying to communicate like he's got all this stuff in his head and he throws it out there and it just doesn't come across right because you haven't seen all the documents, which is one of the reasons why, I'd been talking with Ty about, he and I had talked multiple times about him coming up on the channel, but I felt it important that I needed to get, and I waited too long, obviously, but I wanted to get certain things out. I wanted to have stuff out for my viewership that would put a base of information out so that instead of him trying to tell you these things, we already have seen it. And, well, Louisa, what paperwork have you read? And if if by watching the case you mean watch just the trial, that is not enough. You've got to go in and read and watch. You've got to go watch the actual police interrogations, full crime. Now, I'll tell you, you probably would. The better place to watch interrogations is Crime Circus. He did a heck of a job putting back the interrogations together, which, by the way, were destroyed. Who's he talking to? Christine, who's she talking to next week? You talking about Jerry and Kara, or who? Who you speaking about? But you've got to go back and see those things, and watch the various different tapes. And have you seen the Paula tapes where she names JoJo the day after? Have you? I don't know if you've seen that. Have you gone in and looked at the pictures? Did you watch the interrogation room tape, the hot mic? There's 3 tapes, about 6 hours long. You got to go in and watch and listen to that. Put headphones on and listen to them discuss how they're planning to go after Ty and that they believe he's guilty mainly because of the Facebook post. You've got to go in and see all that. You've got to, I don't know, if you rewind this back, you're going to see where an expert witness who reviewed the John Travis Johnson interrogation conclusively says that is an unreliable statement. Hear whose original statement, Louisa? You're talking about at the very night of the crime? I've heard all of her statements. The night of the crime, at one point, I don't know where it went, the full deposition that was played in court. I've reviewed the entirety of her deposition. She's has several body cam statements she gave leading up. Paula, right? Yes, and the one from the original evening, the one in the hospital where she says she heard a truck, she heard a car start. Have you seen that part? Did you see that part in the hospital where she corroborates Todd O'Quinn's statement that he saw someone get in a truck and go, and at the same time that she says that he's seeing that, she says she saw the person leave, go down the steps, and then heard a car start, a car positioned right where that truck was. That was in a hospital. That was like an hour afterwards. That's corroborating Todd O'Quinn. That corroborates that. Todd O'Quinn says it wasn't Ty Tucker, or he doesn't say it wasn't Ty Tucker. He just doesn't describe Ty Tucker. And then he points and picks out, he picks John Travis Johnson out of the lineup. And then the next day, she's talking to Pitcher again in the back of the car. Yep. Yes. Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought you were talking about. Yes, that's correct. I did hear that. I did hear that as well, Christine. I did hear that as well. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I know she's working on some stuff with that, and hopefully that will be something that happens. But the bottom line is that there's just no evidence to his guilt. He was not involved in the case at all. The DNA evidence supports Rory Wilson did it. There is only one mask and one knife found. And that DNA on the one mask and the one knife matches Rory Wilson. Rory Wilson hit it along the path that he ran off to. If we are to believe that Ty Tucker ran off and out of that site and started running. Why didn't he hide his mask somewhere? Do you think he's just running down the road with a knife and a mask? Rory hid his. Ty didn't hide his. Why is that? Where is that? Where did it go? Police searched the house. There was a trash bag of all the items that were used that were left over. Where is it? Oh, it's nowhere to be found. You know why? Because it was left in John Travis Johnson's truck because John Travis Johnson had it and John Travis Johnson got rid of it. On top of that, where's the video of Ty Tucker running back past Keys Electric? Where did that go? What happened to that video? Why doesn't it exist? Wouldn't you think if that existed, they would have just pulled that out and said, there it is? But they don't have it. Where is the video showing John Travis Johnson returning that would have shown that he was returning while the crime was taking place, not after the crime took place? Why is that footage gone? Why is that footage missing? Why is that no longer available? I'll tell you why it's missing and why it's gone. It's because, did a prosecutor get access to the digital videos in this case? A prosecutor that ended up getting her bar license suspended twice? Yes, that did happen. And guess what happened? Those videos are now missing. Where are those videos? Why are they missing? We don't need John Travis Johnson anymore. Why hasn't the state explained that? Why hasn't this? Why? If there's missing evidence that could have cleared Ty Tucker or could have convicted Ty Tucker, and it's missing, why are we still having a case right now? How is Ty Tucker supposed to defend himself? On top of that, the grand jury. Why did the lead detective hide Todd O'Quinn from the grand jury? Why did he lie about his existence? Why did he lie and say that there was nobody else that saw anybody at the scene but Roger Rugged? And that Ty Tucker, that all the witnesses said Ty Tucker was matched the description when that wasn't the case. Why did they go after? Why did the state, after they found out that the DNA didn't match, why did they go and move a known informant, a known snitch into the jail cell with Ty Tucker and then pay him money, release him from prison in exchange for what they thought was going to be testimony that he was going to give that Ty Tucker confessed? And then that same prosecutor goes to the judge at his Arthur hearing, holds out that they now have evidence that Ty Tucker confessed behind bars and holds him behind bars for another year. And then it turns out that the evidence that this guy presented, it was a completely nefarious, ridiculous statement, ridiculous to the point that he suggested Lauren was the name of the individual that planned this entire robbery with Roy Wilson. That's what he was told. Lauren Janae wasn't involved in the case. Lauren Janae had nothing to do with this. That's ridiculous. So why did all that happen? Why did all that happen if Ty Tucker is a guilty guy? Where is the evidence? Where's the DNA? Where's the videos? Where is all this? Hello, Lauren. How you doing? Where is it? Where is it? So, that's why I say, Luisa, you got to go back and watch. You got to go back and look at all this stuff. And you got to start from the point. Where is the evidence that he did any of this? There is none. The answer is there is none. And the answer is, there's no way that a jury should or will convict Ty Tucker if the case is presented properly, in my opinion. Somebody has to get the blame. Yeah. But yeah. So, but yes, Lauren, everybody is very much in support of wanting to get Ty a lawyer. Hopefully you can convince him. We tried to convince him live the other night, and he had a lot of excuses why he didn't think that could happen, but he needs to, everybody agrees that obviously Uh, his results thus far, landing himself back in jail, representing himself, is not what they need to be or what they could be. Well, Luisa, you can't hire me because I'm not a lawyer. He'd be in trouble. I don't think I'd get admitted down there. I mean, I'd love to go if they let a non-lawyer come in and argue his case. I'd go argue it, but I'd probably mess up the procedures as bad as Ty Tucker did, and I'd be I'd be an even bigger distraction. Controversially coming in and arguing a case without a law license. I agree, Gabby. That's exactly what she needs to do. Unfortunately, though, the thing that you have to understand, though, guys, is Ty can go when Ty's in court. He can go. I mean, you got to look at some of these cases. If Ty decides he doesn't want to have a lawyer and he's in court, he can fire his counsel. I mean, we've seen that happen in cases like the Darrell Brooks case, where he just fired his lawyers, and you've got the suitcase lady who might end up representing herself down there. She's going through like 11 lawyers. So he can kick the lawyers out. Nobody can make him be represented by anybody. You know, well, DG, what I mean by that is, in a sense, it did, because he didn't follow the procedures, and he didn't have anyone to communicate with the court. He pissed off the judge, and if he would have had lawyers involved, he very well would have been able to potentially have avoided some of these things, because. Or avoided maybe having the bond revoked, because the lawyers would have been involved in, he would have called his lawyers when he's down there at the site and he's having to deal with them. By him having to deal with this stuff, on top of that, he certainly wouldn't be sitting in jail in Oregon, because his attorneys would have been able to organize, and they would have been involved right away and notified right away, hey, your client's bond's been revoked. There's a arrest warrant, and it would have all been coordinated. But by him trying to do it all himself, things get missed. It's a tremendous undertaking. Let's see what Luisa says, because he would have to be honest with a lawyer, and he can't be. He just wings it. Well, no, he can be honest with that. I don't think that at all. I mean, he doesn't just wing anything. I don't think he can be honest with lawyers. He was honest with lawyers for 6 years, 6.5 years. I mean, remember, lawyers represented him all the way up until September of 2023. So that's not an issue. The issue at hand was he lost faith in the lawyers because he felt like the judge was going to try to insert himself into the case as a third prosecutor. And he felt like he needed to get the judge off the case. And by going pro se and being able to say what he wanted to say in his motions, he felt like that was a better strategy, and then he ended up trying to case himself. But the bottom line is, Luisa, there should be no greater proof of how weak this case is when a pro se defendant who is clearly a bit disorganized, who didn't have all his ducks in a row, and he's able to come in and get a 9-3 mistrial. Now, that's also why I tried to tell Ty, that's the evidence you need right there to say, get a lawyer involved, because if you have an organized lawyer and an organized defense who's cross-examining witnesses and putting forth the suppression motion and putting in the evidence that you need and making the arguments to the jury and making sure none of the BS gets spread about buying trips and stuff like that, like Big Boy Mansfield was able to do and Alvarez was able to do, you have a not guilty verdict. There's no way you're going to have 12 people in a box sit there and say, beyond a reasonable doubt, Ty Tucker is guilty. I just don't believe it. And I could be wrong, but I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I believe it would have been not guilty. Easy, not guilty. I mean, you don't even need to bring in half the stuff that Ty wants to come in. I mean, you just get a proper cross-examination of Danielle Malone. I mean, the lead investigator on the case gets demoted. Now she's answering 911 calls because of her actions in that case. I mean, and then they could have got the IA report in through the appropriate business record hearsay exception and been able to question her about that effectively and entered it. And it wouldn't have been a distraction like it was when there was all the fights going on between him and the judge, interrupting the ability for the jury to really be focused on what you need to. And then John Travis Johnson, that testimony should have been done in a day. And he would have been absolutely I'm sure by, and again, we've seen Ty's other lawyers in action because or you can see them in action because there's depositions and whatnot. But see what Jeff had to say. I said Ty wants attention more than his freedom. Well, I think the way Ty views it, though, Jeff, is it's about, Ty's aware of other cases, too, that have been affected and other people that are sitting down there in Florida prisons who were affected by these dirty guys. And so I think in his mind, it was like if he can help bring attention to this, it can help others that are down there. But really, honestly, like I've tried to talk to him about it and was talking to him about it the other night, win this case, and then everything else follows. But just win the case. You don't have to prove innocence. Just prove that they can't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Good. Well, that's excellent news, Lauren, because I think it would be very difficult for him to be able to manage his defense from behind bars. I really do. I think it would be a tremendous undertaking that just very well probably would give the state a chance to convict him with the BS that they're going to pull and the way they can argue to the jury and put things before the jury in a way, and then distract Ty in his closing argument. I mean, and Ty's not going to be in any mental state, being in jail all the time, to be ready for trial. All right, like if it's Ty now, since he's locked up, he needs a lawyer now more than ever. He can't fight it when he's locked up. Hire a lawyer, hopefully a good one, and he'll win the case. Yep. Now, Lauren, there was a suggestion from someone earlier that on a lawyer, and it was a good suggestion. I don't know if this lawyer would even consider it, but he was the lawyer for the Travis Rudolph case. He's a Florida lawyer, so he would be in the state. He just wouldn't be part of that area. But I think the best lawyers, though, guys, in my opinion, would be the lawyers he had before because they know the case. This judge isn't going to give a new lawyer any amount of time. They're not going to. He's already made it clear he's not going to continue the case further. Ty created the situation by firing his attorneys. So this guy's not going to go, well, we're going to continue the case for 120 days. He's going to say to the new lawyer, you better be prepared on trial date at this time. And if that lawyer doesn't feel like they can adequately represent him, and we watched this in the boy in a box case, the judge did it to an attorney that was in there, and the judge just said, well, then I have to withdraw. Now that immediately, in her case, she hasn't agreed to go pro se, so that immediately threw the case back kind of into a tailspin. But that's what the judge can do and say, well, show up. Now, in Ty's case, because he's willing to go pro se, he'll probably show up and try to try it pro se. Mark Shiner. That's it, T.S. Jackson. Thank you. Well, the problem with that, Flash Fan 85, or bringing in anyone out of state, is they're not going to like it. First of all, they're not going to really be up on Florida law because they're not licensed in Florida. They're going to have to get local counsel. And they're not very friendly down there to getting people that are out of town, let alone out of state. So what he needs, he doesn't need Mark Geragos. He doesn't need Johnny Cochran if he was still alive. He doesn't need some amazing lawyer to come in here. He just needs a lawyer who is competent, who knows how to argue, and he can beat this case because this is a very weak case. And he also, but he also needs a lawyer that's willing to stand up to the judge and willing to stand up and willing to advocate for him without excuse, without concern, without worried about their reputation or having to come back and face these judges and prosecutors again and worrying about ruffling their feathers. They got to be willing to go in there and kick ass and take names and piss them off and do whatever they need to do. I didn't see the judge show any emotion regarding the verdict. I think you're biased. I thought Judge Jones bent over backwards in this case. Sarah says Peter Tragos and his father. Well, I understand a lot of people have been reaching out to Peter. Peter is a personal injury lawyer. He'll say that on his channel, and his father is the defense attorney. But I don't know that his dad would probably. Again, you got to remember too. Some of these guys have cases and schedules and trials coming up, and again, this judge is not going to be amenable to a lawyer coming in and saying, "Hey, I'm taking over the case, but I can't try the case until May of next year." They're just not going to do it. Oh, good. Oh, Shiner is. Oh, that's awesome news, T.S. Jackson. That's great because I'll tell you what, I was not impressed with Tim Ferritter's attorneys at all. So I hope she's got a shot then, and she needed to bring in a heavy hitter like that. I'm glad he's involved. He's a really good attorney. I really, really was impressed with him with Travis Rudolph. He reminded me a lot of my dad. And I really liked him. I remember watching with my dad and my dad and I were watching him together. He's a really good attorney. He really is. Yep. Well, there it is. And that's the thing. That's what we need, Lauren. And that's what I'm saying. They know the case inside and out. They've been fighting this thing for years. They're the best fit for this case. And unless the only reason why, Lauren, I think everybody was a little bit concerned about them was because Ty led everyone to believe the other night that they were going to charge $200,000 for the trial, which everyone unanimously thought is insanity. And that he said that was obviously too expensive. So the idea, I think, kind of flew up. There's got to be others that are out there that would be willing to take on this case and do it. Well, absolutely. And I think Ty acknowledged that his lack of having like a staff or a paralegal or an assistant or someone that could do the things that a fully staffed legal firm can do for you definitely hurt him. Well, he could direct you to someone, right? But the point is, though, under your scores, is there is someone here. So Peter is not going to direct, anyone to direct them to anybody that is going to charge less or do less than what the attorneys that he had. So that's why they need to come back in unless they're unavailable or unwilling. And then that would be a situation where they could do that. I agree with you, T.S. Jackson. Tim Ferritter's attorneys were terrible. I don't know where he got those guys from. I was so unimpressed. I reposted that trial up and rewatched it again, and it was as bad the second time I watched it as it was the first time. It's really, really bad. And I was not surprised he got convicted. I was only surprised it took him. It didn't. I thought it would have been quicker. And then that man, not to say that he doesn't maybe deserve to go to prison based on what he did in that case, but I felt like the attorneys in that case were not very competent, in my opinion. It was not a good defense. It was not good work at all. Oh, that number was thrown out there at one point. Okay. Well, I think, like I said, I think they gotta. If they're talking about 200,000, I mean, come on, they got to get real. That's nuts for a trial. Like we've seen what the trial is, and I can assure you, it does not require $200,000 to show up for a 3-day, maybe a 5-day trial at best when attorneys show up, cross-examine John Travis Johnson. So I would. And on top of that, it's a highly publicized case that will make them far more than that over the publicity and the fact that they will be sought after in a way that they've never been once they get identified as the attorneys of record. Well, like I said, I think that's the quickest and best way because remember, now that he's going to be down there, and if he doesn't get his motions to dismiss, and the judge already said at the last hearing, if he doesn't file his motions, and there is a deadline, and that deadline is still ticking. Just because Ty Tucker is in jail up in in Oregon doesn't mean that his deadlines aren't ticking for him to get to filing the motion to dismiss, respond to the motion in limine, all that stuff. And that judge is going to say, oh, sorry, deadline passed. You waived your right to respond. So he needs to get them down there because hopefully they will get involved, because I got a feeling that the trial date's going to get moved up. Well, that's another thing, Lauren. I would imagine with what you've paid them already, they owe you a trial anyways. I mean, for them to have not had to do the first trial, I mean, it's to me, I feel like they got enough money probably out of this case that they owe you a trial anyways, in my opinion. But oh, by the way, Todd, I figured he's probably out using drugs again, man. He's a crack addict, and he's going to be out in the wind. He ain't going to be around for the trial. But he doesn't really need Todd O'Quinn. He doesn't really need them to, need him really in the end. But I figured Todd O'Quinn would get out of prison and go party, and if he doesn't kill himself or get killed, or find himself back in jail. I agree with you, Flash fan. Well, don't worry. It'll come, Lauren. I'm sure Todd O'Quinn will be arrested at some point because he'll go back to doing what he does best, unfortunately. Well, they can only keep him in Oregon for so long because eventually he's got to go before a judge. Oregon will only hold him for 30 days and then they have to release him. So the rule is they have to come pick him up in Florida within 30 days. And if not, Ty gets to walk out of jail. They have to release him because remember, he's not being charged. He has no charges in Oregon. The charges are in Florida. So the governors have to connect up and they got to get their acts together and they got to show, and Florida technically only has to show that they've identified him as Franklin Tyrone Tucker, that they have charges and that the charges are there. And then, at that point, they're could take him to court and appear before a judge. Now, Ty could contest it. That's why I was suggesting at one point, you're thinking to myself at one point that Ty could contest this and, if he wanted to, get a lawyer up there and try to contest it and do it in a way that would gain some publicity by bringing up all of his due process claims and saying nobody's done this before. There's no case law I could find on it that, hey, the warrant isn't good because it's based on charges that are in violation of Ty's due process rights. And at the same time, have him or his attorneys refile the motion to dismiss and say, hey, I don't want to go back there because they're trying to hold me illegally, but again, one way or another, he'll be back in Florida. Well, yeah, but I think that, honestly, I think in a way, maybe you could think of this is the sign he's got to bring the lawyers in. He's got to bring the lawyers in to get the motions in. You're right. There's no way that he can do that he's going to be able to get the motions filed. And it's all done by, in the eyes of the court, it's all his intentional actions, missing his appointments, doing this, doing that led to this. So he's not going to get a benefit from it. And the state's going to argue against it. How you doing, Pamela? So that's why I say, obviously it's the weekend still right now, but hopefully next week Ty will be amenable to bringing in his attorneys, let them get to work down there, determine what you all want to do as far as whether you're going to contest it or not. Probably you won't. His attorneys will probably say, get him down there to Monroe County. I'm sure Ty isn't excited about going to the Monroe County Detention Center. And then get him down there to hopefully figure out what's going to happen. But look, Ty needs to understand, whether he files these motions or not, this judge is going to deny them all. Okay? But getting them filed is important because it's in the record, and it can then be help later on when you're looking at the record for appeal. He's got to bring the issues up to protect the issues on appeal to get them to be able to be considered later. So, you know, I don't even know if you could file them for him, Lauren, if you have access to his documents and stuff, if you can get a hold of them and file them and whatnot. Well, Jeff, interestingly enough, if you're representing yourself, they do actually. They will make that available to you. Now, what happens is it's not in your cell. They would have to bring you like for a period of time, unless you're in solitary. They will give you access to those files and documents, and you get to go to a private area and review them and do your work. So they will do that. You know, because he has a right to defend himself, and they have to recognize that. That's recognized. Well, yes, eventually. He would, yeah, because technically when he appears in court, he's going to have to decide what he has a right to counsel to help him with the extradition. So he is going to have to declare, is he going to have a lawyer help him with this extradition situation? So yeah, he'll have the ability to say, if he says, well, I'm going to be a lawyer for myself, then that will immediately give him access, maybe not to his computer, although I don't know where it's at. It might be an intake. It might be, still at the airport. Who knows? But he would then be allowed to be provided with those items to begin helping his own defense. Yep. In a prison, they do, Flash Fan, not in a jail. Not in a jail. They don't have a legal law library in a jail. But yeah, he has a right to hire an attorney in Oregon for the Oregon matters. And then, of course, his attorneys down in Florida, normally what would happen is someone gets arrested like this. Well, normally your attorneys would help to avoid this. But if you didn't, the attorneys would then have somebody they would recommend, and you get in touch with them on the ground in Oregon, and kind of would come in and get a small fee to come in and act on your behalf, just to give you your rights and say, okay, do you want to waive extradition or not? If he waives extradition, it's easy. And then Florida has like 30 days to pick him up. And if they don't pick him up, he gets released. How you doing, Kylie? Yes. Brief recap. Ty got picked up essentially for he had alcohol testing, mandatory alcohol testing on the 10th of April. He showed up late, waited in line. Because he was late, his registration expired. At that time, he attempted to contact pretrial services. Pretrial services reached out to the facility, arranged it so he could come back the next day. They told him to be back like first thing next day to do it. He showed up late for that, unfortunately. But he did take the test. He passed the test. But the judge, because he missed it on the 10th, I guess decided that, and again, technically that was out of compliance. The judge went ahead and signed an arrest warrant for him being out of compliance based on him missing on the 10th. Even though he says he didn't miss it, but he was late, his registration expired. Anyways, that's why the judge did it. And then, he did not take the test. Oh, he did not. Okay, Lauren has given us an update. Okay, see, Ty told everyone, me, and I still been thinking he took the test. Oh, so he didn't take the test. So he had told everybody that he did take the test. He was compliant. Now I'm understanding. Okay. So then he shows up late the second day. All right, guys. So he shows up late the second day. Same thing happens. And then I guess he never did anything with it next. So Lauren, did he just not follow up with it? He never took the test, or did he take a test at a later date that was in compliance? Well, yeah, unfortunately, Sarah, it does. If you don't take the test, they have to consider that you're messing around and playing games. But it was a, but it shouldn't have necessarily been a warrant needed to be done here. This is not a drug case. This isn't an alcohol case. This shouldn't have resulted in this. But this judge was looking for a reason to do this to him. All right, so Beach Bum says, if I were tied, call Shiner's office ASAP. See if I can get a contact with Shiner or his wife, Heidi. His wife has a different last name. She's good too, her referral. Oh, he missed the email where pretrial said he was non-compliant and he did not realize it. Oh, I see. Okay. I got you. No, I don't think he was afraid he'd fail TS. I think he's been passing these tests for 5 years. I think he just, again, it's just the nature of Ty. He did what he thought he had to do. He called. He didn't pay attention. He's caught up in lots of other things. So, see, he indicated he did take a test after that, Lauren. Again, I don't know if he did or not. I don't know how frequent these tests were, but he had led everyone to believe, myself included, on that stream the other night and in his Facebook post that he did take a test at some point to show that he had no alcohol in his system. Yeah, I was going to say, but like I said, this was clearly something they were looking to do, and the problem is Ty stepped into it. And this is why Ty needs a lawyer so that he doesn't have all these responsibilities. And if he was out on bond, all you have to do is just focus on his damn tests. Clearly, this is why Ty should understand he's overwhelmed. And the judge should have taken that into account. In fact, I will, again, and I don't know if it was just a trial, but it seemed like Judge Jones did recognize the overwhelming nature of what Ty was undertaking, and that's why he had suspended those tests during the trial and didn't seem to be worried about it. But I think he thought, well, Ty's going to get convicted and we're going to have him in jail anyway, so it won't really matter. Well, Beach Bum, he's got the people that were representing him before, which were good attorneys. They're still in the picture potentially. So oh, I got you. So pretrial saying he did not show up. He just did not show up. Well, the question though is whether or not he was just put down as a no-show. In other words, like he may have shown up, but since the test was not taken, they may have just documented it as a no-show. And that's another problem that, again, with Ty handling this instead of his attorneys handling this, making sure that something like that doesn't just get put in a record to which the judge gets it and sees no-show and has his excuse to file the warrant. Well, hopefully he's not lying to everyone on this because, thank you for the information there, DG. Yep. But I don't think they're going to wait that long to get him. I think they're going to go get him and bring him down. Yeah, because, well, I think when they unseal everything, Lauren, we're going to know, okay, or if they unseal it, because that's what's going to be contained in the probable cause affidavit. Listen, whatever actually happened, we're going to know as far as what the records show. And then again, if Ty is truly going to contest that, he's got to that's something that he needs the lawyers for. So they could subpoena the people in and have a contested hearing and make them testify as to what happened and make them fly the people in. He has every right to do that. But he's not going to be able to do that on his own. There's no way in the world Ty's going to be able to manage that. He can't even manage to get to a alcohol test. So he needs, again, Ty, I think, definitely has to see that something new's got to change here. Let's see. Florida is sending up their own air security dust crabber here. Misunderstanding. Yep, I think so too. Well, no, listen, the way the judge is going to see this is regardless. He didn't comply. He was late. See, at the end of the day, there isn't a way out of it. You say, well, he didn't comply. He didn't comply. He wasn't on time. It's hard-nosed, but this is why we have to have the media involved in it, because the only thing that gets the judge to back off this is when the judge has to answer, why would you go to the extreme of revoking a man's bond after he's complied with this for years, and now you're going to revoke it over some small little, okay, he was late? There's not another way you could do it? And you're going to put a $3.1 million bond on there? Like, that's crazy. That's insanity. I mean, we understand Ty was in the wrong, but $3.1 million bond? Come on. There's no reason for that. There's no reason. Ty said, bond is about fleeing and making sure he appears. He's appeared at everything. So this is why, again, he needs to have lawyers involved to go in and advocate and argue. And at the same time, we've got to figure out how we can get greater attention on this thing. So far, nobody's picked it up. But the local Keys newspaper, I guess it's the weekly newspaper down there. Gets what consideration, Jeff? What do you mean? They do get that all the time. The judge is supposed to weigh the weight of the violation. There's supposed to be numerous violations before you would revoke bond. So yes, they do all the time. They get that. What happened to Ty is the outlier. You don't normally see bond get revoked because they were late to an alcohol test, or even if they missed an alcohol test. What you would say is you'd see a hearing get scheduled and you'd say, Mr. Tucker, appear in my court. And then in physical person. And then Mr. Tucker would get the opportunity to appear in court before the judge with his attorneys. And then the attorneys would get to get time to investigate. That's how this would normally go, Jeff. So absolutely, no, what they're doing to him is completely, and I know that for a fact, that's how those things work. So he is the outlier in this. The way they've done this, this judge wanted to send the message to Ty Tucker, I'm not your friend. I'm not here to help you. And you will comply with me. He wants to let Ty Tucker know, I'm taking great offense to what you're saying about the good prosecutors in this county, about Judge Jones. Remember, Judge Jones, at the end of the day, is the guy who swore him in. He's the guy that this guy holds in great esteem and high respect. So when Ty Tucker is in there saying that Judge Jones is framing him, Judge Jones is violating his due processes, that Judge Jones belongs in handcuffs, this judge is taking great offense to that. And then Ty Tucker is going before him. This guy said, you know what? This is why Judge Jones was giving him great deference to a degree, or not deference. He was being a little careful, much more careful than this guy. But this guy's basically said the good thing is, I ain't Bubba. I ain't been involved in this case. I wasn't even a judge, but 3 years ago is when I became a judge. So you can't say I'm part of any conspiracy. I'm here to hold you accountable, Ty Tucker. And if the evidence shows you're guilty and a jury finds you guilty, you're going to prison for the rest of your life. And if you don't comply with my orders, you're going to jail. If you don't comply with what I ask you to do, your motion's denied. If you don't meet a deadline, consider it waived. That's what this judge's message is. And in essence, he's carrying the water of Judge Jones because Judge Jones is upset. So, oh no, Judge Jones recused himself because the water got too hot. Judge Jones, see, you have to understand, Judge Jones wanted out of this case, in my opinion, because he knew there were a couple things floating around. One, when he gagged Lauren Janae, that was unconstitutional. He knew that. That's why he was so worried about that part of the gag order. That's why he didn't reinstate that gag order. And he was worried because he knew the press and media were all looking at this case, and that's why he didn't put it in effect. Secondly, the gag order itself made him the gatekeeper to all the secrets of the state. to all the information that the state doesn't want to get out, he was aware of. Why? Because in order for it to be sealed, it required an in-camera review, which required Judge Jones's eyes to be on it. Meaning, Judge Jones is aware of it. He couldn't say he wasn't aware. He couldn't say he didn't know. So Judge Jones wants to get the hell away from this case because he knew there were too many eyes on it. There were too many people that cared right now. So they got it. He got out. He put his little protege in, a guy who is up for review this year, who his seat isn't guaranteed. He's got to prove that he's one of the people, that he belongs in the club. So the head on the mantle that he needs to get is Ty Tucker's head on the mantle. Yes, he is up for re-election this year. That's the way it works. Because the seat that he was appointed for, it requires either he goes up for re-election within 2 years or at the end of the term. That all coincided at the same time. So he is up. Oh, he has been elected. Okay. I didn't realize that. I thought he was up for re-election. Well, no, Joe. Well, Jeff. No, I think it's one would think that maybe, but I think in this case, Judge Jones is the conspiracy. And go read the gag order if you need confirmation. No, he has been elected unopposed. Okay, so he's already gotten in. So this is his thank you for, I guess, being in, and he already won. Okay, so he's already won. So this is his way to return the favor of getting in there and showing that he's part of the gang and wants to stay in the job. And that makes sense, actually, because if he just won the job, it's like, hey, buddy, go return your favor. Go pay back your dues. This is paying your dues. Deliver us Ty Tucker's head on the mantle. Take care of our Ty Tucker problem for us. This is what you need to do. Oh, was that just the other day when he was? Oh, wow. Okay. Yes, that's well. Look, the thing about it is, it needs to be said, and it should be said that Ty Tucker right now would not be where he was at if it wasn't for Lauren Janae, because she's the one who has allowed for, number one, the resources to fight the state of Florida. Otherwise, Ty would probably have silently taken a plea at some point. We'd have never heard about his case. Two, the only reason why the press has cared about the case is because of her involvement in the case. So, absolutely, without her, Ty Tucker would not be where he is today. Well, I'm not saying in jail, but I'm saying his case would not be getting the attention. It would not have got attention by Court TV. It would not have been one that anyone would have cared about. And Ty has a voice because of her, whether he likes it or not. And he may not appreciate that fully, but that's the truth. And it's because of her resources that he got bonded out. I mean, that he didn't live in jail for the last 5 years, but 5 years. So absolutely. Without her, none of this is possible. Without her, Jerry and the gang aren't involved in the case. So, I mean, that's a huge, thing that shouldn't be forgotten or overlooked here, because we're getting to see this, and that's the point. See, that's the point. That's the point, Jeff, where we say, why do we care about a guy like Ty? We care about Ty because for some reason, the circumstances of this case led us here. For some reason, Ty is the guy that gets selected, and he knows Lauren Jude, and they're connected earlier in life, and they reconnect again. And because they're reconnected, it throws the entire plan that Phelps and company had into a tailspin. And now we know. And now we have the opportunity to expose them. And I think that's where Ty's caught up in, where it's like, I want to expose. But what Ty's got to understand is you start exposing when you win. First step, first stage, win. Second step, expose them. File the civil suit or see the civil suit through. I think there might already be a civil suit filed. But pursue the civil suit, pursue the Department of Justice. People will be asking questions left and right. How did he beat the case? Why did he beat the case? You've got to win, though. You can't fight this as a man that needs to be removed from prison. You've got to go in here and beat this thing outright. And he did a great job bringing attention to his case and making sure that he didn't get worse than a mistrial when he had to try the case himself. Now he needs to follow through and let the lawyers come in. But yeah, so that is DG says nothing wrong with helping people in need, and Ty needs help, and he got the help he needed. Hopefully, he is thankful, which I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure he is. I'm sure Ty. I'm sure Ty understands that fully. Of course. I mean, they're after all, they got married. I mean, they're husband and wife. I mean, he understands that, but he probably gets caught up in things and maybe doesn't always think about that now. And then as this case is coming, he's got to make sure that he remembers. And he's also, as a result too, Beach Bum, we're not sure on the next hearing. The next official hearing is June 17th. We're not sure when Ty will be in court. He might be in court Monday or Tuesday. We'll have to wait, or that would be tomorrow, maybe Tuesday. At some point, they're going to have him appear in court. But but yeah, so that is the situation. So he will be, at some point, he'll be in court this week. So with that said, guys, I've got to end the stream because it's about dinner time where I'm at. So I've got to move into dinner mode, and get that done. But I wanted to come on and talk and go over some things and give an update. I appreciate Lauren Janae coming in here and being able to talk with you guys. So, Lauren, are you going to continue the lives that Ty was doing? Are you going to be able to continue those now that he's no longer available? Yep, absolutely. Well said, Jeff. Well said. Well said. All right. Well, excellent. So then we will all. So it looks like Lauren is going to continue the lives. That's great. So we'll be looking forward to those. So I know this Friday we didn't have one. I don't know if you're continuing the schedule Ty had on Fridays, but I'm assuming you're still be able to have access to post up community releases and stuff like that. So awesome. That sounds great. So be on the lookout. It looks like Lauren will be sending out some updates tomorrow, and hopefully, like I said, we can figure out what goes on with as courts open. We'll get a better view of what's going to happen here, and when Ty will appear in Oregon court, and then I'm sure Lauren will keep us all updated on whether or not Ty lets the lawyers back in. We hope he does, because that's what he needs right now. So thank you, Lauren, for coming in for the update. And no problem, Jeff. And then later tonight, guys, for those of you interested, I am still behind on day 4. I will be, after I get done with dinner and everything, I will be broadcasting day 4 of Karen Reed, because we got to get caught up on that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm covering it. It's here on YouTube. I know YouTube shadow banned me. I have YouTube, Rumble, all of them. But if you go in, I'm going to put up I'll put it up, and I'm going to go live on that case. Luckily, it wasn't an 8-hour day. It's only, I think, about maybe 3.5 hours total, because they did a scene visit. So, yep, no problem, Britt. Thank you. And DG, yep, thank you guys. Thank you, Beach Bum. I appreciate everybody that came in. But yeah, Jeff, I am covering it. So be on the lookout. I don't, if you just search up at Justice is a Process, I'll be back covering it tomorrow, live, hopefully. Friday, I wasn't able to. I had a track meet I had to go to for my son, and it was a championship meet. So I was on the road, and then I was on the road yesterday. And anyways, so I missed day 4, but luckily, like I said, it wasn't a super long day. So I should be able to get that covered. Anyways. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you all. Thank you for watching. And we'll be talking soon. Till then, let justice prevail.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Gonna learn the consequence of being incompetent. Mental health is confidence, dreams and some honestness. I'm not here to save the day, that's for you